I didn't bring my key.
Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, December 2nd. My name is Scott Bugby. To my right is Jim Lehan. To my left is Jeff Colombo. To Jeff's left is Jack Hathaway, our town administrator. And to Jack's left is Marion Harrington, our executive assistant. I want to also remind people that this meeting will be audio and video taped. Jack, would you read us tonight's agenda?
I would be happy to. The Norfolk Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, December 2nd, 7 p.m. First order of business, we have Michael Yang, our IT director, in for a brief IT update. No questions asked. At 7:10, we have Scott Bragdon, our HR director, in to review policies, several policies, including domestic violence and automobile use. At 7:30, the Norfolk Auto Repair, 38 Main Street, Class 3 hearing. 7:40, we have the DPW Water Department in for an update. We also have a discussion item of a wastewater treatment plant. And Mr. Chairman, if I could very briefly, just because of a lot of news reports, I have a news
brief you want to read? It was on Facebook? Sure,
press release from... So on Tuesday, December 2nd, press release from the Norfolk Animal Control Officer. On November 25th, the Norfolk Police and Animal Control received a report of a suspected animal abuse perpetrated by 3 individuals at a Grove Street residence. The investigation has resulted in 3 individuals being charged in the incident. All 3 individuals were charged with cruelty to animals, one charge to one party, intimidation of a witness. The Jack Russell Terrier involved in the incident is still in the care of the town of Norfolk. We anticipate he will be in the town's care until a resolution to the case is determined through the courts. If any party has any additional information regarding this incident, they are urged to call the Animal Control Department. For further information, please contact Officer Hillary Clinton at 508...
Hillary Cohen.
What did I say?
Hillary Clinton. It's okay. She's reported to Vice. Yeah, okay.
My apologies.
To Ms. Clinton.
Please contact Hillary Cohen at 508-528-3232.
Thank you, Jim.
My work is done here.
I'll be all right. I'll be okay.
Chip's not gonna be okay. Excellent. Okay. And we also have acceptance of minutes. Sorry. Michael, do you want to join us up at this table?
Oh, my
I don't know if you
goodness.
want to now. You can sit there. Thank you.
That's one of the better ones,
You
Jack.
just said it so smoothly, too. But I'll have to say, I almost have a tweet about this now.
Okay.
Welcome, Michael. Thank you for coming.
Michael, how are you?
Very good, very good.
We appreciate you staying late. And
Hey, those emails are still coming through. You're my hero.
Oh, thanks. All right, I just want to give a brief update of what I've been doing, pretty much. I've been on this job for about a year and a half, since August last year, and let me just show you the different projects that I've been working on. This is just a very brief bigger items that I worked on. Video surveillance system for the town, the keypad system, which is the door security system. Also added the new servers, new computers, also town-wide fiber optic network, consolidated internet service for the whole town, new firewall and internet filtering devices added to our network, antivirus program with monitoring, and I'll go into detail with that, and also the daily server backup, meaning I do a full backup of our server infrastructure every day. So that's for disaster recoveries and such.
so what's like the recovery time of that, Mike? If it went down, is it plus like 3 minutes? You know, when do they lose it and when do you recover? You know what I mean?
Well, actually, I've never tested the actual recovery time, but this process is mainly to back up data just in case we lose our very aging server, which I'll go into actually.
Okay.
So.
Sorry, I should have looked at it.
Oh no, that's right. That's right. The first item is a video surveillance system. The system hasn't been running. Actually, was not running when I came on board. I'm not exactly sure how long it was offline, but basically got a company in to restore the service. Pretty much, we reused our existing camera, but we added a brand new server and brand new decoder to capture the images. These cameras can restore approximately 1 to 3 months of recording and it's triggered by motion. So let's say if somebody walks in front of a camera, then you will start recording. It will not just record continuously. So it's a pretty agnostic system. What that means is that we can, if we don't like the current program that we're using, we can substitute with anything else generic that's on the market. So it's very economical.
So just a quick question.
Sure.
So now someone enters the building on a Sunday evening.
Yep.
We know who it is.
Yep.
Because the key card will identify who the person is.
Correct.
Little
Yep.
bob, what do you call it, a bob?
The key fobs, yes.
Key bob.
Yep.
That will identify who it is.
Yep.
And it'll be on camera.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yep. And the time between systems are actually they are synced, so we can match up the recording time against the entry log to see who and when. Such.
And departure
So,
as well.
correct. Exactly. So.
Good.
All right. So the second system, I'll go into the keypad system, which is it the main key feature of this system. It allows us to program the doors, in a group of doors or individual doors, to the time space that we like. For example, if we have a meeting tonight, I can program it to unlock the door, let's say at 6 o'clock sharp. And we can set the time to relock as well, and this system manages not just the doors, also the key sensors, the users, and such. So, and it tracks who goes in and out of the building.
Do you control that, Mike, or like if Jack had a meeting, or do you have to always be involved, or can it be run by someone else too? You know what I mean? So in case you're not available, or if, you know.
Yep, my whole team is very familiar with the system. We have the exact same system at the HR of Day School, which is new as well. So,
Bob Bullock and I can both do some
yes, and
maintenance on it
Jack
as
and
well.
Bob both have access to the system. So, as well as video surveillance. So, all right. And new servers. I added 2 brand new servers in the basement of the town hall. One is the domain controller, which controls the users, and the other one is a virtualized server that will allow us. It's one physical server, but will allow us to install as beyond 3 virtual servers. That meaning we can turn one server into 4 or 5 if we need to. So. It's quite economical in one way, and also it has a lot of redundancy building, multiple hard drives, multiple power supplies. I know it sounds very fancy, but these are just a pretty standard server, like very solidly built machines that are commercial grade and not flashing anyway. So it's just a machine that makes sense. So, okay. Let me see. Let me go to the next one. And the next next item is the new computers. I should say up-to-date computers, not new computers as in very fancy new computers. These are the commercial-grade desktop purchased from Dell directly, and a lot of the computers that we have are, I would say, 7+ years old. So which is quite slow, and a lot of them have died one by one in the past year and a half, and I've been trying to keep up to replace them. Oops, sorry.
It's okay. It's good. Cyber Week, okay.
Cyber Week, it's extra 25% off Family Fashions.
Sorry, that's
okay.
a problem using my phone.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
What that means is that the increased productivity, because instead of sitting there waiting for programs to load, it loads pretty much instantaneously, and reliability just means that it doesn't crash. You know, we use a Windows 7 Professional.
Do we now have a program, Jack or Mike, to update? You know, since we have a bunch of old ones, are we on we try to do with automobiles, like replace X so many per year in terms of computers? You know. Or is
Well,
that-
we did. You know, Michael's already touched on a couple of things as to why we brought him in. Our old IT consultant originally did a pretty good job for us. He filled. Mike, I'll dance for a little while.
Yeah.
That's my father. I apologize.
If you need it, take the call.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. I apologize. I should have used my phone.
Don't
but,
worry,
yeah.
don't worry
Yeah.
about it, don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
But it got to the point where the old consultant was doing a lot of patchwork,
Yeah.
repairing computers and stuff, which was great. Got us through, some tough economic times, but we got to the point where we needed to bring Michael in, and he's really bringing us to some places that we needed to get.
Sure.
So, to answer your question, I don't think I'm not sure if Michael's. That's something we're going to work on is building
Like an
a
inventory
replacement
then,
schedule
yeah.
for all the computers. I'm not sure if you're there yet, but that's something we're.
Yeah,
we're
basically for the past year and a half, I've been doing mostly catching up, meaning replacing old infrastructures and updating infrastructures just so that we can that will allow us to at least be able to keep up with 21st century. Right now, with the brand new fiber optic network and up-to-date computers and new servers, that will allow us to use the better programming, meaning the up-to-date programmings, instead of using programs that they are 5, 6, 7, 10 years old. So that's a key here. Right now what we're doing, we're still at the stage cross between just simply updating update our infrastructure to a level that is that we can keep up with the technology, and also the starting to improve the programmings that would I'm trying to find the right words that will allow us to take one step further.
Sure.
So.
You're just getting us into some.
Yeah,
new
we're
century.
we're doing phase 1 and phase 2. So the right now we have the network that will keep up with the more up-to-date programmings, and our infrastructure, our computing infrastructure is slowly getting there. And once we're there, then we can start to investigate how to make things flow better than it is now. So.
So Mike, when you talk about programs, and this may be a question more for Jack, I'm not sure. But, I think about things like Word and Excel and, PowerPoint, but then there's, accounting software and other software that all needs to be operated, on the system? Is that, in terms of having the capability and having the memory and such, is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, we have, and Michael knows them even more intimately than I do at this point, but we have the treasurer system, so all the collections, all the real estate data and excise data and personal property data is, so that's on the treasurer system. We have Munis, which is our accounting system. That's run as an ASP, so that's run on a server off-site, but all of our computers need to be able to connect into it and be able to enter data and interact, et cetera. We have our GIS system, again, running remotely, but we need to interact with that. The assessors is another system running Vision. He's running that locally.
Correct. Yep. So there are few main systems that we're currently running. Vision is the assessors system. That's one. CDS, which is used by the treasurers, treasury department. We have the Munis, which is our financial accounting software, and the our GIS program, which is People GIS. These are four main programs that we use, and out of the four, we have two that's hosted on site on a 10-year-old server still at the moment, which is the Vision program and CDS. With the new server infrastructure, my first step hopefully in late December, I'll be working with Mr. Nees in transition Vision system from the old server that it's currently on to the brand new server. And the next step will be moving CDS system if we need to. If we're going to continue using the software, we will have to move from the old server to the new one. By doing that, the last step is to move user data from the old server to the new. Then we can 100% decommission the old server. Then it will be 100% on new infrastructure. So, but at the moment, just that there's so much of the there's so much it impacts so many different areas at the moment. So one of the things I'm doing right now is try to plan this very carefully, and not to impact the different departments too much. So
How secure is that system?
the old system that we have, at the moment, I would say fairly secure from outside attack, but because of the I'm going to use because of years of neglect, the security permission isn't set properly at the moment. I try to fix as much as I can, but for example, if I start changing permissions in one area, it could inadvertently impact another area unintentionally. So that's why I've been trying not to touch it too much. So whenever I come across something that I can address right away, then I'll do it. But for areas that I'm not quite sure what the impact would be, I tend to leave it alone, at least for now.
What's the longer-term answer to that?
Longer-term answer to that, once we move the new server will be built according to the Microsoft standard of how servers should be built. That for example, the file permissions, how they should be nested and things like that. I won't go into the detailed technology terminology. Yeah, it's there are ways to program security, and Microsoft, because they design servers so that they have quite a few documentations in showing people how things should be done, and those are things I'm trying to follow, the more industry standard, instead of giving everybody access to everything and just make things easy. So
Part of the reason we run some of the, that we chose, even back to the Bob Markle days when we were making these decisions, we chose to put Munis and some of those systems as remote, is that, we have, Munis, which is is an expert at this, and at the time we weren't, we didn't have Michael, but they protect our, most critical data.
The thing that comes to mind, obviously, is employee data,
Yep,
Social
and our
Security,
payroll is all,
pay-
that,
pay- payroll data.
and we run that remotely from Harper's. So, Michael, there's obviously still, even though we're running it remotely, Michael's still got to make sure that people can't worm their way in or whatever it is that they do. But that's part of the reason why we didn't want to store that data here.
remember that.
For, for continuation of business purposes, in case of a disaster, and then also for security purposes, we made those decisions.
So the Cliff Note answer is we're doing all we can to protect that.
yeah, exactly. Right now, it's the unfortunately there's some just patchwork to do, trying to prevent the server from failing. That's what a lot of times that we have to do at the moment. But once transition is over, and we'll be in much better shape. And with the technology updates, one of the few key things that I focused on were the network security, and the machine security. So one of the few main things that updated, such as firewalls and antivirus program, those were my priority to implement, because it impacts a lot. The network basically can carry any data anywhere within our environment. So without a proper security, that it could cost heavy. So yeah.
Is this, Jack, is this going to result in some capital items for us in the spring?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
And I can apologize for the phones. Use my phone.
It's all right. We like seeing your messages.
Fiber optic network. This is one of the, I'm not say if not the biggest upgrade that we did within a year and a half time period. That with the building commissioner Bob Bullock's help and Jack's help, that we're able to make this happen. This basically bridged the gap between buildings. This allowed us to have a one consolidated network, meaning all 7 town buildings, 2 schools and 5 town buildings, to have nearly unrestricted data flow between the buildings. And what that translates to is that we can locate network infrastructures in one location instead of one set per building. That's what we had before. Before, each building has its own internet access, and each building will have its own servers, its own set of servers. But now we have one internet service with one very powerful firewall and internet filtering, and now we can even have the one set of infrastructures, the phone, servers, we can all consolidate into one with proper redundancy.
So I was just going to say, so if when you kept saying one internet service provider, so say it was whatever it is, when you said redundant, so if that went down, are we stuck then, or do you have a?
Actually, I do have a backup. It's agreement with the cable access that we have a free Comcast service for the education for schools and libraries, because the main internet actually came off from Freeman Kennedy School. So there's also a redundant Comcast backup. So the main internet comes from Verizon, the backup internet comes from Comcast.
Okay.
So if Verizon ever goes down, we have Comcast, and vice versa. So instead of putting all the eggs in one basket, meaning getting Verizon as the main internet and Verizon as backup, if the whole network goes down,
Right,
doesn't matter if it's the main one or the redundant one, it's gonna fail. So that's why I picked 2 different companies. That way, if one fails, I can switch over to the other one quite easily. So, yeah. All right. That goes to the consolidated internet. We have 13 IP addresses, meaning the address that we have from a package that allow us to have outside access. 13 will allow us to have not just one service to the outside, we have multiple lines. That's what those IP addresses are for. So, let me move on to another one. And this covers the new firewall internet filtering. On the town side, the filtering is minimum. However, on the school side, I set quite a few of the restrictions like weapons and pornographies and such. Those are blocked on the school side.
Why wouldn't they be blocked here?
On the town side, just pornography, because, for example, let's say for public safety, sometimes they need to do a lot of research, so I cannot restrict the internet access. So
You can't do it by like division or part?
yes,
like,
I can. Yeah.
So you could then do here for like, for instance, weapons if it wasn't related to public safety. If you want, I don't know if that's.
If I want to, yes, exactly. I can filter the internet access according to buildings or sites. So
And or users or no?
no, I'm trying not to restrict particular users.
But you can do it by site.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a good thing personally.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's up to.
Yeah. I can tailor to the needs of individual buildings. So.
I understand the police and needing to go on the network, so to speak, to
Yeah.
do various research. And they have various reasons why they may go on to certain types of websites to do certain things, but not here,
Yeah.
I wouldn't think.
Got it. Yep. And town library is just because of the nature of the First Amendment, so we cannot block anything at all. So
You can't block anything?
yeah, and
Pornography?
correct.
First Amendment.
Yeah,
rights
First
from-
Amendment. Yep, freedom of speech. That's why on the library side cannot be blocked. So at all.
Okay, well, if that's the law, that's the law.
The only thing I would say, in Scott's role, HR, I mean, sometimes, I'm not sure how close to the line some of the searches could be in writing policy and, finding out what the current standards are and such. I'm not sure if that would, perhaps prohibit him from getting information that he might, want to reference for some of the policies and such that he gets. I don't know. I just don't know enough about it.
Yeah. But the functionalities are there, so that we can need some more to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, Michael has the ability to view what people have been looking at, and I'm sure he'll come to me if we think there's a problem. It's not like we're at State Street where we had 22-year-old.
Yeah, and you
Knuckleheads
also
running
don't
around.
wanna, we don't want to play Big Brother either.
Right.
And start,
Yep.
looking over. I mean, that's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, crazy. It's just inappropriate. But
Yeah, there are
the easy
warnings.
answer to it is just to block inappropriate sites.
Yeah.
Yeah, some sites are not blocked per se, but it will notify me that with a warning message in some categories. Let's say if it becomes an issue, then the system will notify me, and we can take appropriate action. So,
Right.
yeah. Okay. All right, and antivirus. This is a somewhat new addition to town. The Sophos antivirus is it's very popular nowadays with a lot of the big corporations, and the perk of this system is we can manage it remotely from anywhere. Also, it keeps a log of the virus intrusion. Not monitoring what people do, but let's say if a computer is infected with a virus, a notification will be generated. Meaning, I'll receive an email and telling me that a certain computer has a virus and the action the system has taken or not taken. Some viruses need to be manually removed. Meaning I have to be sitting in front of a computer to run cleaning program, and the program will notify me. So this is a very, 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 very good system. So, and right now we're sharing this system with the school. So I also program this system according to the need of the also the age group of the different buildings in town. So, okay. All right, and this is the last item, which is daily backup. As of now, we run daily backup on a 8 terabyte drive running RAID 5, meaning it's just the way that the system stores the information. 8 terabyte base will give us approximately 6 terabytes of storage. And I keep a 3 months backup, daily backup of the critical data as of now. So.
Did you keep that offsite or is it onsite? Or
It's on site. It's right next to a server. It's USB connected. So
So what happens if something happens in this building?
then
No offsite backup. You don't do like Dropbox, no offsite backup.
Yeah, just the amount of information that we have. It's difficult to do offset backup unless we do the tape backup, meaning we copy the information to tapes and then we move it somewhere else. All right. Very last slide is the future projects, and I apologize for taking so long.
No.
I'll be continuing to replace and update computers, workstations, and also migrate more services to the new infrastructure, the servers, and update of the phone system. Right now, we're about 4 versions behind what the company is currently offered, a short-tail company. So. They will be upgraded, if not late this year, which is this month, probably January sometime. Update Vision property data system, that is the assessor system. New email system that I'm planning on. I'm hoping to use Gmail, a Google platform, similar schools, but I'm also investigating Office 365,
Would
which
that
is
get rid of first class?
yes. Yes.
Tomorrow's
Yes.
a good
Answer
day.
yes. Yeah. First class has been proven somewhat unreliable at the moment. So
It's terrible.
yeah, it goes down frequently, and unfortunately, so. Also, increased number of surveillance cameras, and also the increased resolution, meaning adding cameras to more locations, let's say on the 2nd floor of town hall and more in the basement, and also make the picture a little the picture sharper. Let's say the ones that needs to look very far. For example, the main parking lot, that one will be upgraded, and also the in the middle of a building. So. A better system backup solution. That's what I was talking about. Maybe we can choose the offsite solution because Freeman Kennedy School's server room is it's a 2-year-old school, so it's very modern, very clean, has a lot of space. Maybe I can move the infrastructure there if needed, and also faster internet service. Right now we're using a somewhat economical. It's fast, but not as fast as it should be. So. Okay.
You've got a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
You have a
Busy.
lot on your
Yeah,
plate.
exactly.
Yeah,
A lot on my
a lot
plate at the
off,
moment.
too.
Yeah. So,
Thank you,
very
Michael.
helpful. Thank
This is a
you.
very good
Oh,
update.
thank you.
Thank you
We
very
appreciate
much.
all your work.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I apologize.
Oh,
No,
no,
no
not at all.
problem. I'll get back to your dad, because he's probably waiting for your call back.
Thank you.
That's most important. Thanks,
Thanks for all
Michael.
you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Michael's dad's grandfather, 105 years old.
All right, so we're going to have Michael for a long time then. This is good
My
news.
father here to visit my grandfather from overseas. My father just got here about a week and a half ago.
Oh,
Nice.
wonderful,
to
great.
visit my grandfather.
And your grandfather's 105?
Yes. was
And he's
born
using a
1999.
smartphone?
Yeah.
No.
No, that was his dad.
My father is, not my grandfather.
He
I
might.
was going to say, if he's free to give us lessons, we-
Well, thank you. Thank you.
thank you very much.
We're running slightly behind, so Scott, you're next.
Well, do you want to go right to, not to put Scott off, but do you want to go right to the hearing?
Yeah, I didn't know if we could do it, jump ahead, yeah, I don't want to keep.
And that'll
Paul.
be, that'll actually be like a 2-minute, that'll be a 2-minute hearing.
Okay, yeah.
We love it.
Thank you.
Do you want me to read,
Want me to read Bob's report? Or,
no, I didn't know if I had to read it, like, the notice, but there's no really notice on that, right?
It doesn't have to be.
Okay. We all had a copy, right? Did everyone get a chance to look at Bob's? Okay. So we just need to, do we have anyone have any questions for the applicant, Mr. Roach? Concerns? No? Jeffrey?
None at all.
Mo-
Been doing it a long time,
I
right?
was gonna say, and he's applying to, Bob's very happy, so what that means we're happy, and the town's happy. Do I have a motion to renew?
I move to renew.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Paul.
Paul, Kevin, Paul.
Kevin, Paul, sorry, I saw Paul. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Say hi to Paul.
Yeah, say hi, Paul, and not Mrs. Clinton. Sorry, thanks.
Oh, nice. Drag me into that mess.
You put in the letters, it's Paul, I didn't know it was Kevin, I was, I
That's,
apologize.
that's one of the better ones.
It was excellent, you just said it and kept moving on without you not even noting.
That was one of the
Sorry,
better
Scott,
ones.
to put you off for a second there.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. What do you have?
So am I on?
you go.
Okay.
You're on,
Before I start, I think Michael is very conservative in how he tells you how important the work that he's been doing. I mean,
Wow, believe me.
that server he just replaced was running Windows 2000.
So 14 years behind.
So it
really,
was
yeah.
started, it came out in 1999, so,
Something
that, I
wrong
mean,
with that? That's what I
yeah.
have on my computer.
yeah, I mean, the safety of employees, the backups were not being, I mean, we still got a lot of work to do. Some of it is almost at this point limited, not so much by the equipment to buy, but having the physical time to do it all, you know, kind of thing. But we are in so much better shape to him and his team. And if you go around anywhere in this town and talk about Michael, you're going to hear nothing but wonderful things. So,
See, it's still snowing. We can watch Michael leave now.
okay, yeah, we'll all watch
Right there,
Michael
isn't
leave
it?
on the.
Oh, he's
I mean,
still
this
here.
Camera
I was
wasn't
waiting.
working for our employees leaving.
Oh, we can watch Mr. Roach.
That's
We can watch
that's
Paul
live in our
leave.
parking lot.
What's that white stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see Miss Clinton come in? We can keep going with that, Jack?
Oh, he's backing up.
Are you doing that now on your phone?
Are you
No, I
doing
did
that,
it.
or? Oh, my.
I did it.
Oh, Jack's doing it.
Oh,
There we
terrific.
can see, we got all the,
All right, sir.
So, we've got 3 policies here, 2 that could be voted on, 1 that's for discussion. And I may, you know, you can do what you want. One of them you could hold off for discussion, because there's a lot to it. We'll take the easiest one first, which is domestic. The hardest subject, but the easiest to approve, I think, is the domestic violence leave policy. This is in response to a new state law that was passed. We are required to have a policy in place. The most important, most of the time off policies we have, but this specifically gives employees rights and privacy around if they're having domestic violence issues and getting them help, and giving them time off and using their current time off to be able to use that, gives them support along that. This policy was 100% written by our lawyers. They sent it out to all their clients. I put our name on top. They suggested we use this. So that's where this came from. It is, as I said, it is required by state law that we have this in place. I'm also required, once you approve it, I will send this out to all employees, to have Roxanne send it out to the teachers, but we'll send this out to all employees and make sure. I've already sent out an email so that we were compliant with the law to all employees, letting them know that we were, even though the policy hadn't been written yet, we were waiting for the state guidelines. This was in place, and if they had any issues, to contact me. So that's what this one is.
So just taking a look at it, Scott, so
Yep.
it's not only the employee, but it's also the family member of
That's-
an employee
That's correct.
is the victim of abuse.
Yes, and it allows the employee to take time off to deal with that.
It's a very broad definition.
It is a very
Spouse,
broad
parent,
definition.
Step-parent, child, stepchild, sibling, grandparent, it's very broad. Which is good.
Does require employees to provide us some documentation of what's going on so we know it's legitimate. It also, sets up some rules around confidentiality to protect the employee.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
We need for all those, have a motion to,
I move to approve.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent.
So the next policy is something new for the town, but I think it's overdue. Pretty much every town I've talked to has a policy of one way or another in place, and it's about the use of automobiles for town purposes. This is pieced together I have about 15 different towns' policies, so this is pieced together out of that. It will have an effect on some employees, some minor, and some not at all. First of all, employees that have access to cars via contract, Chuck, Cole, Jack, whatever, this really has no effect on them. The one effect that it does have is that it does require painted or stenciled town seals and department on all cars, all town cars. Jack would be an exception because he owned his car, and we reimburse him for that. The Chuck's car has a regular license plate and is also used for undercover, so that would be the other exception.
Is that
Paul-
spelled out in here too?
That is spelled out in here. It would require, this policy, and again, this is yours to change or whatever, it would require the fire chief's car to have an insignia on it. The other cars would be, most of them have them, but the DPW all have them. So the car that the real estate office uses would need to have it put on. He uses a magnetic thing, but that would need to be put on. The
Building department.
building department's car and Ann's car for recreation would need to have those things put on. Policy limits the use of town-owned vehicles for personal use. Except in emergency situations, prohibits family members, children, etc., from being taken around in the car. Again, the exceptions to that are the people that have contracts. That's not for Cole or Chuck or Jack, who has his own car, but other vehicles should not be used for personal use. DPW, their supers have trucks that they take home. They take home, and that's not at all prohibited from this. That's an agreement that was made from them. They and like Bob Bullock have responsibilities for emergencies, and so I think it makes sense that they have that. Where it could potentially affect them, one of the things that I am concerned about is our compliance with IRS regulations around the use of cars. This talks about being compliant with those rules. Whether you pass this policy or not, that is something that we should be looking at and making sure that we're following the IRS regulations as far as personal use of cars. And there are different things. I think that the police chief is not, it's not an issue for him. The public, I think most of like Cole's usage is work-related stuff, so I don't think it would be a big issue for him. Could be for some other people. So it's something to think about and how you may want to handle that. Is it an employee cost? Do you want to gross it up? This doesn't address that, but that's something we're going to have to think about. That is, I think in a nutshell, pretty much what this policy does. It, it would mean that, Ann or John could not take their cars home at night unless, if they had an 8 o'clock meeting the next day or something makes sense, they just got to let Jack know, and it's not an issue. But it means, for those where it isn't set up already, including DPW, where it is set up, it would prevent that. So there's some things in here to think about. It's not life and death, but there is some things to think about, and it does require us to be more proactive on the tax front, which I think is a prudent thing for us to be doing anyway. So,
Give me an example, what do you mean on the tax, you talking like Section C, the imputed income taxation?
exactly.
Yeah, personal use.
Yes.
The value of.
What we're saying, we're not supposed to be using for personal anyways, aren't we, though? So is that
You
trying to
drive, theoretically, driving it home and back is personal use.
personal use, right?
An exception would be for emergencies. I'm not a tax accountant,
Right.
but I would certainly think that if I'm a DPW guy and I take a truck home because it's supposed to snow tomorrow, I want to make sure I got a truck I can get in here with, I would certainly think that that counts. But
But like in the summer, again, if you were trying to flaunt the law, you could argue that DPW could be called out for a water main break anytime, so therefore he or
you
she
can-
needs a
if-
truck.
so
to
long,
haul it.
so long as you can look an IRS person in the eye and say, we're following the law, I'm a happy guy, and I think that's what we need to do. So I proclaim that I am no expert in these things. I just think that there probably are some cases where we need to do some imputed income. Not a lot, but some.
Okay. Because they take it, but I thought we're stopping them, I guess, I'm sorry, Scott, I'm a little slow.
No, go right ahead.
We're stopping them from taking it home at night, so why would they ever case?
It's only going to come a case, and that it's only going to become a case mostly for the DPW guys with the trucks,
Okay.
because we're not going to stop, unless you want to, we're not going to stop them from taking them home. But Phil was a great example. Phil's the water superintendent. What's that?
Bob just took your car, I just saw someone pulling out with your car. So he takes it home and is,
Well,
because.
let's take Phil as an example from a
The water
tax point of view.
superintendent.
Let's assume that Phil only drives it around work where he's going to a job, but drives it back and forth. So let's just make numbers up and say that, I don't know, what are you 25 miles from home? Yeah, so he's driving 50 miles, but he's only driving 5 miles a day
Work-related.
work-related.
So those
Then
two-
that could be an issue, a tax issue for him, because we should do it.
And therefore
Now,
us as a
the
town, 'cause we're
opposite
not
can be
collecting-
true. He's driving 30 miles each day, but he's also, he and his guys are taking the truck for another, 150 miles a week, driving around to all the jobs and stuff. Then that percent becomes small, and it's a very small issue, or a non-issue at all. I don't know.
But it is the law.
But it is the law.
Yeah, and as Scott said, it's an issue we got to deal with one way or regardless of this policy, and we can do it. It's just but so it's a win-win. I look at it. Phil takes a truck home. I'm sorry, Phil, you just happen to be sitting here.
Don't use the social security number. The guy, someone at home is watching from the IRS, right? It's like,
Phil's
who's
sitting
this?
here. We want him to take the truck home because he's the water superintendent and he's responding on a regular basis to water breaks,
Yeah.
plowing issues, all kinds of things. So it's a benefit to the town for him to take the truck because he's responding on a quicker basis. Same thing with Bob McGee, and then Tom Benedetti, doing highway and.
Most of the guys live in town or are very close to town.
Right.
So
Okay,
it's really not an issue.
So what's the win part for him then? He gets to take it home?
Well, one part for him is he gets to commute in a municipal vehicle.
Right.
There's less wear
And
tear
we're
on
paying
it.
for the gas.
Right, but we just said it's a
We pay
benefit
for
for the
the
town,
upkeep
and
of it.
therefore, not that I want to cover his tax bill, but since that is making him readily available in a case of emergency too, we wanted a grossed up or imputed tax because he takes them. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of circular. I know. I think the
we're gonna have
benefit
to-
outweighs the
You
cost.
could do that.
We're gonna have to analyze this. Yeah, that's what Scott suggested.
I don't want to make it overly
do that.
cumbersome or some.
No, I don't.
No, but that's
But we
not
need
uncommon.
somebody who knows a lot more about taxes than us to kind of tell it. Because like you said, Phil might get called in at 2 in the morning because a well went down or something. Certainly having his home is a huge advantage to the town, and that certainly, to me, is, you know.
We don't want any sinkholes like Rentham had.
Right. So,
So,
I'm hoping that we can do it, there are very few people that would have a lot of impact to it. But I'm hoping we can do it in a way that has little impact for anybody. If it turns out that there is more of an impact that we like, then we, you, Jack, whoever the appointed people are, can make a decision how, or Bob, how they want to handle that. Do we gross that up? Do we, you know, how do you want to handle that?
yeah, and part of the reason, when we created the superintendent's positions, we looked at the compensation and we, you know, because we couldn't pay what I would call a market rate salary, we included the trucks as
No,
part of the
like I
compensation.
said, I think just to have them available,
Right.
just because you never know what's going to happen. Fine.
So,
We'll take care of you, Phil, don't worry.
I have just, when I read through this,
Those are
Scott,
notes.
there was one, if you go to page 6,
Yep,
As long as you walk.
go to page 6. Under penalty for DWI.
yep.
Now, it's the second line.
Second sentence or line?
About the other employees?
Yep.
And I know the magic word there is may.
Well, what
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know, but
it's saying that you and I were driving, you knew I was drunk, and you got in the car with me and
Spell this down.
allowed me to drive knowingly.
here's the issue I have with it.
I don't know how you prove it, but,
Well, but here's the issue that popped up to me, and I don't disagree with it at all.
Yeah.
That should be uniform, and anybody that knows somebody's intoxicated should never let them go behind the wheel. But the problem is that there are people that are intoxicated and you don't know.
right. Well, I think, doesn't
there
this
are-
say
there
no?
Should have
But,
known.
but you've got should have known.
Right.
That's the word I have a problem with.
So,
Because
we can
th-
change it
there
to
are
whatever you
people
like.
that just hold it. You know, I mean,
Find it legally intoxicated,
you know
you
what
would
I'm
know it.
saying?
Yeah, no, I know what you're
they're-
saying.
they're- They're not,
There's people, you know,
there are people that can just drink like crazy.
it could be that you saw somebody have 10 martinis,
But it could
but they
be-
act fine.
And it could be you didn't see him have the 10 martinis and they act
I was
fine.
going to say that, yes. And it could be that they had 10 and told you they had 1, and they were acting fine.
Right.
Well, then they shouldn't have known. Because they didn't know. So, but we can change that wording or we can take it out.
It's just, it's a tough one. I agree with the principle of what you're saying, but
I think the
when
amount
you're
of
talking about
times that that would
termination,
happen.
when you're talking about termination, because that's what it says.
Well, it says maybe
Right,
terminated.
so maybe.
I understand may is the
It's
magic
got two
word, but-
wishy-washy words in there. You want a third wishy-washy word?
I'm
know what you mean, 'cause it's May.
I'm the king of mission. Look, the amount of times that it happened is probably someplace between 0 and never.
Well,
And it would
it
be-
doesn't matter. You have to prepare for the
So
one that
we-
it might.
We could
Yeah.
take it out.
No, oh, no.
Or leave it in there and say may be subject to discipline up to termination to
Okay.
make it more clear that it may not be
I
termination,
would
especially
be
if
more
it's
comfortable
gray.
with that.
You know,
Yeah,
it-
good
it really-
suggestion.
But, I think the idea that you've got employees looking out for each other in the best interest of the town, I do like that, and I sense that
I
you took this.
agree with it in
You
principle.
know,
I
from
just think
best
it's a
practices,
tough one.
Scott, that you saw
Okay.
in
So
other towns, so.
I'll change that to maybe subject to discipline up to and including termination.
That'd be fine. I'm okay with it now. Thank you, Mr. Palumbo.
Not a problem.
You're very welcome, Mr. Lee.
That was the only one that flew off the page at me, Scott.
You know, it requires people who use town vehicles to make sure that they are maintained properly.
Yep.
The trucks, like DPW trucks, are maintained, all the town vehicles are maintained by DPW. But you gotta make sure that if it's your car, your truck, that the check engine light comes on, that you get it fixed. It's your duty. And if your tires get bald, you get new tires for it.
If-
Not asking you to pay for them, but that you,
With the exception of the police, I don't understand why all town vehicles don't have identification on them.
Fine, I'm
I
happy with
mean,
that.
I don't see what the problem is with that. I mean, I completely agree with that.
I don't know if you what it costs to, like, on one of your trucks, to put the.
They don't need the fancy stuff like you guys got.
Street sweepers, everything has a logo on it.
It's got on page 7 there, the cell phone.
Yep.
We're not allowed, I mean, still in mass, right, correct me right, you can, I mean, in a personal vehicle, you can use cell phones, right?
Yes.
We're just making, because we're the authority, or because there are
Well,
vehicles?
again, it says should refrain.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, it's said that way. I mean, there are times, again, in DPW, I'm sorry you guys haven't been here, but you're, I'm on my way, and Bob calls and says, gee, can you turn around? I hear there's a tree down over there.
Bob's always on the phone.
And they're gonna do that, but,
Probably talking to me.
that's different than driving and talking to your daughter or something.
Okay, it's a shirt anyways, I didn't know.
We were asking to be prudent, and I could change it to something like that, to use the phones in a prudent way or something like that.
It doesn't matter, it's all
I-
for
it's
interpretation, yeah.
I think it's a pretty complex,
Yeah, I mean,
There's a lot to it. They gotta report accidents within 24 hours,
It's common
theft
sense.
and damage.
We would hope they do that anyway, I thought maybe,
Yes.
but it's a policy now, so now it's more,
it wouldn't do any harm maybe to sit on this and let us think through it a little bit more,
I think it would be.
Mr. Chairman, if you're in agreement.
yes, we can bring this up, yeah, take it under advisement and to address it the 16th. Is that okay with you, Jeffrey? Yep. But good, Scott, I think, like I said, some were common sense, but we hope that they would report an accident, they would do this, they'd lock the vehicle, but.
a lot of reporting accidents stuff is already required in different policies, but,
So put it on the agenda to vote at the next meeting?
Yes, please, and thank you.
As an action. Is that agreeable, sir?
Is agreeable with me? Have we shared this check with all the people that kind of have, or that Scott said, limited people, not that we have to?
Sorry?
Have we, no, okay.
Thank you.
You know, I can't let me finish my question, but thank you, Jack, for anticipating my every need. Okay. Scott, you have one other,
I have one other policy. This is here for discussion purposes.
We can't vote on this because it wasn't brought forward, is
it's
that,
not on the agenda,
it
yeah.
was not on the agenda?
Right. So we have a current retiree and terminated employee health insurance policy. Terminated employee is very standard, and but the policy basically prevents people that have retired. It requires them to make a decision on health care for them and their spouse at the time they retire, and this policy gives them 6 months to change their mind and to add or subtract. That was put into place, I think, in 2012. Prior,
you can always subtract.
yes, you can always take people off. What we were seeing and what we continue to see is frequently some people have been gone a long time, who could have been retired for 15 years, and they want to now get on the insurance. And in order to, health insurance is such a huge cost to the town. This was a way of trying to control future expense and also be able to budget future expense for retirees and others. So that's why we put it in place. There has been a few people that have come forth recently that would like, for different reasons, to put their spouses on the insurance, and their spouses have not been on before. And the way the current policy is written, it would prevent that from happening. In talking to Selectmen and talking to Jack and whatever, I've rewritten this to give employees that are under 65, because over 65, they have a lot of choices. There's a lot of healthcare choices out there. But it certainly didn't take anything away from them. But for people under 65 would go on a regular insurance, gives them an opportunity with notice by us to, between now and the end of January, tell us that they're going to put their spouse on our insurance. So we would notify them, give them a place, have them contact me, and then they could add their spouse. Now, there are two ways that can happen. One of the individuals that is asking for it to happen recently lost his job, so he will be losing his insurance. That's considered a change in life according to the law, so he would be able to go our insurance immediately. If other people don't have a qualifying event, but they still want to go on our insurance, they're going to have to wait to put them on until effective July 1st. there's no way for me to do it any differently. We can't do it. So this policy would ask them to let us know that between now and the end of January that they intend to do that, then we'll contact them during open enrollment, and they would enroll their spouse at that time. Again, this is a one-shot deal. After that, we're going to be notifying all new retirees that they got 6 months to kind of figure it out. Hopefully, they figure it out beforehand. But and trust me, I'm not a kid, and I know I'm going to have to be making these decisions. But it's so critical that you think long and hard about medical insurance. Rose and I talk about this with what she has for an insurance and what I have when we retire, not now, but at what point and what do we do? You have to plan out. It's such a critical decision. So, but we want to make sure that we were fair to people, and I think this change gives everybody a shot at being fair. So that's what we're doing.
So Scott, do you anticipate at our next meeting being in a position to talk about, with a reasonable degree of accuracy, recognizing it's probably not going to be perfect, but the maximum theoretical number of people and the maximum, therefore, cost implications to the town, something to help put this in perspective for us? Do you think that by the next meeting that the data exists in sufficient form where that's reasonable to put it in perspective?
I think the answer to that is probably I'll be able to give you an educated guesstimate, but not more than that. I don't think it's huge, but we don't necessarily know the age. If they haven't ever been on our insurance, weren't on a life insurance policy, we don't know their age. And if somebody's gotten married in the last few years, we won't know that. We don't pay the pensions. We get the deductions. We get the deductions from their pension to pay for the insurance. So we do know who's on the insurance. I do know of about six individuals that I know would qualify for the plan. Doesn't mean they'd go on it. I do know of 2 people that would definitely be interested in doing this. So that cost to the town would be about $10,000 for those 2 people a year. But, you know.
You're saying it's roughly 5,000?
It's about 5,200.
Yeah, it depends on the plan they go into. But yeah. So,
But we do know the number of retirees that are on our health plan now, right? So that's the
I
maximum.
mean, I'd be
know that
surprised if it was more than 6 people. And it may be just the 2 that I know about. I don't think it's a huge number of people. But we really don't know.
If I may, a couple of things about this. And this is an industry I come from, so I'm sort of burdened by practice that I'm familiar with. But when you retire, as an employee, you make an election, as I did when I retired for Ventnor Financial. I had to choose what I wanted for benefits. That's an irrevocable decision. I had a partially subsidized health insurance plan that I could continue, or I could say, nope, I don't want it. I'm going to go on my own, my choice. Once I make that choice, as an employee, that's irrevocable. So for an employee the actual employee in the town, they make that decision, I'm going to stay on the plan or I'm not going to stay on the plan. To me, that's an irrevocable decision, and that is our current policy.
Yeah, they can draw anytime.
Right.
By coming back on
Right.
an issue.
The issue that troubles me a little bit is more on the spouse side, where an employee is on the health insurance plan, where they made the choice at retirement to stay on the plan. And we made a policy change in 2012, and it impacted some employees that had retired prior to 2012, which we didn't really have a policy, if I'm correct. We just had no policy. So by default, spouses could come and go. We made that choice, and we could argue, I think correctly, that because it's a public hearing and, a public announcement, every year we change the plans, that there was due and appropriate notification. Not everybody watches our TV show.
That's what it was like. I think they do.
And so that issue's different to me. And there are people's lives change, and things happen, and jobs are lost, or who knows, for whatever reason. And the reason and Scott and I talked about this today, and I support the age 65, because once you're into Medicare, you're looking at supplemental policies, an entirely different financial consideration. You know, you're paying hundreds versus thousands. I mean, it's a huge difference. So I think it makes sense to me to, and I understand the exposure. If this were hundreds of people, I think it's a decision we couldn't do. But, and I think if we do get some sort of horizon around this so that we have an understanding of that opportunity, I think it's the right thing to do, to give people that window, limited window, so it's not going on forever, that says, you didn't know we made this change. And this is prior to 2012. You know, you were under the premise that there was an existing policy in place. We technically notified you, but, you know, unless you happened to turn on the TV that night, you didn't know. And so I'm not saying we didn't notify them, but I'm saying we could have done better. Maybe is another way to say it. To give them that one window of opportunity, limited by age 65, to, if they so choose, to come back on. I understand there's a cost, but, you know, sometimes there's right and wrong here. So I admit I feel kind of akin to this, that this is something we should do. Again, I make that distinct separation between, I'm talking about somebody that took our policy, that is on the insurance currently, not someone that opted out. That's a decision to me that's irrevocable. It's standard everywhere you go. I've never seen a situation where someone retired and had subsidized insurance that they said, no, I don't want it, and then 10 years later decided they wanted it. I've never, ever seen that. I don't think it exists. So unless you know of something, Jack, I've never seen it. But I would be supportive of this approach. I know we can't vote it tonight, but I would like us to consider it, because I think it's the right thing to do.
So, I mean, I don't disagree with what you said. Now, having said that, just trying to do as much as possible to understand what the exposure might be, because, you know, this clearly isn't something that the town has to do. Might be the right thing to do, but it's not something the town
Well,
has to do.
if it's 100 people, we can't afford to do it.
And-
However right it may be, we can't afford to do it.
And just
I
in
don't think it
terms
is.
of the spirit of, you know, managing expenses, when something unforeseen like this comes up, I think the right thing to do is look at, you know, where can we save an equivalent amount of money? And I know with healthcare, you know, those things, you know, aren't easy to do, but I think we at least have to go through that process to try to make it neutral, you know, make this additional cost, try to, you know, achieve some savings to try to make it cost neutral, at least try. We
Yep.
need to go through that process, I think, just to show, you know, that, you know, we're managing the, you know, the budget here and the funds of the town in the most responsible manner
Well, for the
possible.
last,
I think when we adopted this policy originally, we had a significant cost savings. And I think really you're just kind of tweaking this at this point. So I'm not sure. I'm certainly open to looking for cost savings someplace else, but I think the reason we initiated this policy 2 years ago was to find the cost savings, and we've created that. And, you know, I agree with what has been said here, that, you know, that it's a fairness issue, and if we can tweak this, that's great. I'm not sure how, you know, unless we go into plan design, how we find other cost
well,
savings.
may I just kind of piggyback on that, because I've been involved in this one a long time. And to Scott's credit, we review these policies every year, and you have found substantial savings over the last few years. And the employee advisory group has been very cooperative in working through these changes and these issues. And this board, while people may disagree, I mean, this past boards as well have increased employer contributions and tried to be more competitive, because we're on the low end, we acknowledge that, but there are limits to what you can do. But we've brought it up 3-4%.
We went from 55, we're at now 63.
Yeah,
But-
so
And part of that
8%.
negotiation was
So we've brought,
plan design changes for co-pays, et
right,
cetera.
we made trades. We made trades in benefits and costs for those benefits, and increased the employer percentage of contribution. And again, it was the right thing to do. But we have made fairly good progress, I think. I'm not so much worried about the past, I'm very worried about the future. because I think we are going to be faced here very quickly with some substantial health insurance costs that are out of our control. They're totally out of our control. I mean, some of the law changes are going to be very onerous on us, and our experience is going to be a little onerous on us. So we're in for some rate increases irrelevant of anything else we do, and I know Scott is looking at some alternatives to try and minimize that impact, but health, and it's not just us. This you know, Jack and I were talking today about the state plan, and you know, all of the huff puff about, you know, hey, we can save you lots of money, and, you know, take a look now.
Because municipalities are very limited in what we can do based on the law, as far as making
Right.
changes to the programs, our policies, and I mean ours, meaning City of Boston, all of the other towns, we're becoming the best game in town. We just put $120,000 in additional expense for additional people who picked up our family plans. We have a lot of employees that don't take our plans. And I expect that
That's gonna go
trend
up.
to continue.
To not take, or to come onto our plan.
To come
Yes.
onto our
Yeah.
plan, yeah. I mean, we saw the bubble when the Depression hit, so does a depression, recession, whatever you want to call it, when people lost their jobs and spouses came onto our plans. But that trend, let's assume that's leveled off. That trend is now, because of the cost and the benefits, is leaning our way again. And it's just going to go up. We're going to have to wrestle with this. This one's a tiger that we're going to have to deal with for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
But aside from that, as Jeff says, I think correctly, you know, get our arms around what this is. I think it's minimal, Jeff, just my
So
opinion.
we're really just looking at the number of spouses of retirees who are under the age of 65.
Right.
Yeah,
We
what
don't know that,
And-
though.
and
We
the-
can't-
we
other
don't
th-
necessarily know is everybody who has a spouse that's under age 65.
Right, we
If
don't.
we haven't dealt with them.
Right, we wouldn't know it.
At least you can give us the best you can.
Sometimes, some of them we will, but we'll get what
We
we
assume
can.
that the spouse is the same age as the,
Yeah. But it's a limited, it is limited. And the other thing I like about the policy is that you're giving them a one-time opportunity in a, 30-day, rough 45-day timeframe to correct it. And if they don't exercise that option within that time frame, then we move on. So to me, it's giving appropriate notification that I think we should do.
What happens after the 31st, when we have, it says if the retiree spouse has a qualifying change in life, then it doesn't matter that this date of January 31st is passed, right?
They can go on our plans starting the first of the month. Any
Even
month
after-
if there's a qualifying plan
I
under this.
think, well, I'm guessing you didn't understand the question.
After January.
Jumping ahead.
Yeah, after January.
They have to make a decision no matter what by January 31st. If
Right.
they have a qualifying event in February, March, April, May, then if they didn't make that decision by January 31st,
Doesn't matter.
they're out of luck.
It doesn't
Oh,
matter.
okay. I'm just saying, like I say, the person's employed on January 31st, but gets
We're giving-
unemployed on
we have a
February
policy in place now
2nd.
that they can't do it.
They can't do it now
Right, they
anyways.
can't do it now.
Right.
Not
All we're
changing
doing
that.
is going back to those that had that privilege before,
Yeah.
that we're saying didn't get the notification they should have
So-
gotten, to give them a one-time opportunity to exercise that. If they don't do it, then they're under the current policy and we move on.
Right. So we're saying we want them to review their insurance now.
Right.
If they want to come on our plan, regardless of their spouse's plan, if they want to come on.
Now's the
If they
time.
want their spouse to come on now is the time. If somebody loses their job in March,
Yeah.
Out
you
of
know,
luck.
that's too bad.
And that's industry-wide, that's standard. But to me, it was about notification.
That's
We'll give us
the way
that.
it's written.
Okay, we'll
If you
have
want
that.
to change it, that's fine.
We'll have that on the agenda, the Marion, for
Yeah.
next.
So we'll
this
vote on
is-
it at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. What is the board's feeling on it? I mean, I know you probably understand where I kind of view on it. I'm just curious how you folks see it.
Well, you know, I'd like
Let's
to hear
assume
from-
it's a limited scope of risk, of liability.
You can always reserve your answer, Jeff.
Well, I mean, I would like to support it, but I'd like to approach these things so if things unforeseen do come up, that you do try to look for savings to try to offset. And I understand that probably well before I came to the board, decisions were made and there was appreciable savings, but, I just don't want to discount us going through that thought process whenever something comes up that we didn't anticipate. And, I think if we go through that exercise, provided that it is a limited number of people, most likely I would support it.
in general, I'm suggesting, I mean, I'm supportive as well. I think based on what Scott comes up with, I mean, I think we did, provide notice. Was it effective notice? Probably not, but, again,
Don't think everybody watches.
yeah, no, unfortunately, not. Except when we do things like tonight, silly talk. But yeah, so let's see what Scott has to say, and then we can make our judgment then. Thank you, Scott.
My pleasure.
Yeah, sorry to keep you so long. Thank you. Now we can talk about your truck, Phil, if you want to come up and join us for the whole truck thing. And I don't know if
it towed, so.
I don't know if I read into the minutes the social security
you-
number of this gentleman.
Not only
here.
did he have it towed, but he had the town decal put on the door.
Bob, you can join us up here if you want to. So I'm sure you have a truck too. We can talk about.
Bob, you coming up too, or are you just gonna heckle us from the audience?
Yeah, no heckling. Join the fun. Since Jack spoiled some of the thing about a water update, since he gave a little
Yeah.
Phil, how are ya?
water update, but
We had the Trout Club folks here earlier, so I did share a little bit of information.
yeah.
They were here
They're
before,
for the
they were
beginning of the
here
meeting,
before
yeah.
us.
They're here at 6:30.
Yeah. Because the engineers were out there. Is he going to give us a, how do we want to, Phil has an update? Who has it? You're going to, okay. Put you on the spot.
What did you just say?
I didn't say anything. That's the problem. That's the problem. I did not say anything that was coherent or, I think Phil got my gist.
I usually don't miss it, but I hadn't a clue what she just said.
Marion, can you read that back?
Don't read that back. It's been a short, long night.
I'd like to start, I know we're kind of, I think the focus is going to go eventually to Holbrook Street, but I'd like to kind of back up and give you a little synopsis of, starting with the latest master plan, which is 2011, done by Environmental Partners. One of the glaring things that showed up in the master plan was basically that we didn't, if one source went down, Gold Street or Spruce Road, we didn't have a redundant supply. We'd be in trouble. So the first thing we had to look at was, first recommendation that Bob, started it on was get the interconnectors established and get agreements in place so that we at least can do something in an emergency. That has progressed under Bob's watch, and that was done. We can check that box. Kind of the next recommendation was to rehab and rehabilitate what we did have at Golden Spruce, to optimize their performance and productivity. As we talked about in previous meetings, there's mineral concerns that are kind of choking off the wells over time, but due to the installation of the satellite wells and well cleaning and just overall performance of the stations, we're able to optimize what we have. So, and so that was sort of the next recommendation to, in addition to the interconnectors, to get that done. So those two things have been done. So since 2011, we haven't been sitting around, just ignoring the master plan. We've been embarking on the recommendations. The next logical step was to pursue new sources or redundant sources. The semantics, but redundant isn't asking the state for more water. It's asking for, if this one went down, we could pump out of this one. New source would be kind of venturing into the what was the name of that report? That is the water assessment report. If the growth of the town keeps going, then we need we're gonna need additional water at some point. So you have redundant.
Two things, redundant and new.
New,
I mean,
so-
additional source.
So, the first thing I would feel more comfortable and sleeping good at night, Bob would too, is to have the redundant source. So, so kind of we've been poking around in our free time at this new source stuff as the in following the master plan. What's prompted the latest stuff we've talked about, Lawrence Street and Holbrook Street, is development, which has been real quiet for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and it's really hasn't forced our hand. These sites have forced our hand. So we're not randomly throwing a dart at the board saying, let's do Holbrook Street. We're just being, geez, what do we got here? Do we need to protect our rights on that particular property? Now, there's a whole myriad of properties and options out there. It's just aren't those two sites. So what we've decided to do is, in talking with our consultant, to really lay out a logical plan, get something on paper everybody can look at, try to rank some sites based on hurdles, permitting, costs, whatever else, what other factors weigh into the, ranking them. The size of the tract of land. Now, developers are going to be looking at the same tract that we have for development reasons because they're
About
big.
16 acres, isn't it?
Yeah, the subdivisions, they're right in line with the well site as far as area. So we're going to be competing with them, I would think, and moving forward next year and the year after. So we'd like to, that's kind of where we're going with this, is to get, take a logical approach to it and rank them and start knocking them off.
Phil, so would you, because I had the question, because people ask too, about like, why Hobart? Because, because it was it's private property, so it didn't come up for. Do we have a way, without spending millions of dollars to assess every piece of land in town, just to see if I personally, I don't have 16 acres, but say I did, was sitting on a gush of water, if we're willing to, and able to buy it from someone, or, I mean, so I want to say like the most comprehensive, is just a way to, I don't know anything about water, like hydraulic, just to say, that's where I want to start first, so I want to see every piece of property, whether we can buy it or it's restricted.
That's exactly where we're going with it, yeah.
Okay.
Some of them might fall right away, because it's all bedrock, or it might be some real
No,
obvious.
but I
it's
want
all,
to, so I can tell the resident, we looked at every single.
There may be other environmental or hydrogeo reasons, it just falls off, or it's just, but
But do we look privately as well as, we look at all land, right, or we start with the,
we can start with that. I
or is that
think,
stupid? I mean, if it's not something anyone would ever do, or it's too expensive to take, but wouldn't that be logical? I mean, again, if someone, Bob's sitting on, 100 acres somebody's had forever, and we find out, like I said, it's the most desirable water source in the world, we'd want to maybe approach that, or know about it, right?
yeah.
How do you, I guess, and I'm not an engineer on this, so I'm in his side of the school, this might be a dumb question. I mean, I assume you have the capability of identifying the potentially good areas. I mean, you know where the aquifers are, you know where the underground
Yes,
water supplies are, so you.
These are
that you
overlay
have.
things from
And
Mass
I know the
GIS.
master plan indicated that, but I mean, is that's on, I assume.
What we've been doing, and what Phil was talking about just a little while ago, is, kind of get back to the start line. We've been all over the place and did many things and have some results we can provide. But if we go over, and we can fly over the town right in front of our own computers, and find out where we can get, 800 square feet, and color them in, and look at them,
think
and
that's
then
easy
take
for me
them
to
and
look at.
evaluate them. And abutting some of those properties, or maybe some larger, but those are like site assigned, not site assigned so much as town-owned properties. Might be conservation land, might be just the town owns.
So you're going to look at location and then figure out whether or not the source is available under that location.
Right. There's mapping that the, what is the USGS maps?
There's a lot of, you can look at soils, you can look at the aquifer maps, that all over, the track size. There's just wetlands, you can overlay a whole bunch of stuff. And then you have to factor in what they call the swimming stressed area maps now too, where they want you to kind of stay away from the Charles and get into some areas away from the Charles. There's just a whole myriad of factors that,
Or could we see that? I guess it's what people ask, I mean, we get questions, like
Yeah,
some common sense, like a dummy like me can look at, it, just say why we, I know we.
if we throw out 16 sites, we could talk about each one of them for 3 hours, the soil, it just goes on and on. That's why I think a good start would be just what you said, is like, let's look at it on a piece of paper.
I'd say that was the map of all Norfolk. I like to see all that colored.
Yeah.
Red would be hot zone, would be the best. I don't care if it's owned by now or not owned, but.
And like, I don't know if Bob said or Jack did, but, some of the town-owned sites, any piece of land you don't own is going to have a cost to it.
That's
It's
one
going
of
to
the
be
boxes we have to
substantial.
check in
So
there, right.
that's where the
Right.
cost
If it's 16
line,
acres, it's probably going to be a competitive price.
yeah. It's
You have to
gonna
understand
be,
that, but
Because
people
that's
need to
about
know
what you
that.
need.
for our
That's about
numbers,
what
let's
you
throw out
need.
$1 million.
And then
It's gonna be-
you fit that circle in, it may be that you gotta go 100 feet over here or something like that, and that circle moves too. And if you butt into somebody else's land, so
Another- yeah, no,
it's not real easy, but I think the best thing to do is find out what we own for property ourselves, because it comes at no
Right.
cost.
That would make sense.
And then maybe get 2 for the price of 3, 3 for the price of 2, and go out and drill these areas with, 4-inch pipes or 6-inch pipes or something like that, and see how that tests before we get into the big expense of bringing the DEP in.
Right.
Because that's a bigger test, a prolonged test, and it comes at a far greater expense.
Well, I know that your to-do list is more than you can do.
Yeah.
Do we need help? Do we need help
And,
there?
and I know since the DPW was formed, 2008, I think? I think it was 2008. I mean, you guys have done,
pretty
and I
young,
know
yeah.
you're kind of newer on the scene, but, well, Bob, you weren't here in 2008 either, but you've had a tremendous amount to do, so it's, no one's suggesting you haven't been trying to do this, but it seems, and I think you said it very well, our hands being forced at this
Yeah,
point
these
with
particular-
the potential developments that are online now. This has to kind of move up, and we need to spend some money to do it.
But and whenever we talk about whether it's just me and Bob, first thing in the morning or late in the day, or Jack, Joe, we talk about it, it's very, I want to say unfocused, but it's random, you know. I'd like to get it sort of organized.
Yeah.
And then so when people like you guys inquire, we can just roll it out,
Well,
you
we,
know.
we have a master plan, but we don't have an action plan. I guess is maybe another way to say it.
You know, these two particular properties we looked at, you know, the reason they were interesting is because we had a developer that was willing to work with us and therefore eliminate the cost of the land per se. So, but
And maybe I could speak to that a little bit, because of the conversations that have taken place on the planning board. So, you know, I think if the abutters were more interested in working with the town and the concept of land swap and some of these things, if that did come together, then I think, you know, these conversations would be a little bit different right now, at least in terms of the next well. I think long-term, I don't know that there is a substitute for doing a more comprehensive look in terms of, call it paper dolls or whatever, take the town and look at parcels and see how many different places you can theoretically fit, you know, the 800-foot radius, and eventually you get down to the practical questions about, you know, is there water under the ground? But
what are the soils?
even prior to that, just in terms of access from existing roadways and things like that. So at some point, I would think we would want to have that comprehensive look. But along the way, and I think to your point, Jim, I think you guys have been very busy, and I think you've done a great job, you know, just me paying attention to what has taken place. I know I'm a newbie here on this board, but a lot of positive things have happened. So my guess is that in trying to make some progress on new water source, rather than take the deep dive, you know, you folks were looking at some logical places without necessarily taking a clean sheet of paper, look at the town. I think at some point we need to do that, and maybe right now, maybe there's the answers in the middle right now in terms of addressing this question about Holbrook and whether there's some viable alternatives to Holbrook. I mean, I'm hoping there are because of the situation, I think, that exists with the abutters, and that's really not something that's going to be short-term exercise for us to move forward.
I can
on
speak
that
to the
side.
two particular sites that I brought up and that we've looked at. Lawrence Street, we did do a pump test on that, and it showed inconclusive results. It's not done, but it's going to cost money to take the next step. On Holbrook Street, some of the criteria outlined, I would have to rank it on the low side because of the uphill battle. It's going to be cost to that. There's going to be, we don't have a radius on the site, which is one of the criteria. If we did ever get the radius, the DEP wouldn't allow, you know, walking trails through that. It's just not allowed. You have to have a complete control of your zone 1. And also the swimming regulations as far as permitting, the cold water fisheries, it's all about that. And that's who we're contending with. So on many levels, cost, you know, it just, you know, a butter disagreement and permitting. If we did put that on the list, I think it's gonna rank real low.
Oh, is that what you were referring to then, Jack, earlier when you had the gentleman in here?
Oh, yeah.
Or you said something different than more than what Phil?
No. Well, Phil's adding on to what I said. I think the only other one that I might have said was just the topography of the, you know, talking about trying to get the well site in on an uneven, very uneven
Yeah,
piece
I
of
mean,
property is
If the
costly.
ground's here and the water's there, that's 2 feet, and you drill 2 feet. On that particular site, it's 80 feet before you hit the water. So just drilling expenses get real high. It doesn't mean you can't do it.
It's just not, again, on the
It's just-
scheme of rank 1 to 100, it might be 89 versus number 1 or even
Yeah,
top 10.
it's down there. So you know, kind of what Bob has said, you know, the next generation is, you know, going to be looking at maybe the same issues that we are now, or 2 generations from now, is, would we like to preserve that radius? And now that the development's in front of the planning board now, yeah, it would be great, but I'm not gonna, I wouldn't say it would be prudent of the town to spend, drilling money at that particular site, now. But if it happens to work cooperatively with the development of the site, great. If it doesn't, then, we'll just move on from,
So, Scott brought up the point earlier, as far as lands can become available. We even have first refusal on lands with agricultural restrictions. They come to this board, I think, when the property changes hands, and we have right of first refusal. So by having a comprehensive look, which is going to take some time to do that, but there may be some things that come across the desk that might play into a long-term plan. And I think along the way, I saw reference to some other options that perhaps we can explore that where we might not face the same challenges in terms of having to deal with land swaps and abutters who aren't pleased with the idea of a well being proximate to their property. So at least I think that's what I'm hearing we're going to do, which I would certainly support.
Well, we are saying, I think, I don't want us to leave with sort of an ambiguity around this. We're saying that this site is off our list for now. It's just off the list.
I think we're saying that, yeah, this site is, we can't with a straight face recommend spending any money on it to do any
Which
work on
means
it.
it's off the site, off the list.
It's off the site, but
Yeah.
I guess, in a
I guess
perfect
I
world,
left
perfect world,
ambiguous, because I said.
what Phil said, in a perfect world, we would, if we can protect the radius as the developer proposed, we can protect the radius so a generation or two from now, 20, 30 years from now, if we want to leave that for the town to pursue when water becomes even more of a scarce scenario, that's
we-
what
but
we
we
would
know the-
recommend.
we
but
know the
that's
answer
gonna-
to that now.
That's going to be up to the planning board.
But we know the answer to that now, in terms of, you can't get that radius without getting into a
No, but
legal consideration.
I'm saying leave the radius there, that's there, which gets you 90% of the land. At some point, I'm stealing one of Bob's lines, water is going to become gold. And so, if we can preserve 16 acres of land, or whatever that acreage is right now, maybe it's 15, we should do that. But having said that, we have no intention over the next 10 or, in our probably careers, we think there are a whole lot of other sites. And to use Jeff's words, this would be the site of last resort for us, because it's probably going to stack up so low on the priority list. But does that mean you throw away a 16-acre parcel? I don't. But again, that'll be for the planning board to talk about.
We're saying the same thing. Okay.
Well, it's going to play a role in your decision on the planning board, what design you choose to allow. Because one knocks it off the map 100%, and the other one allows it. And I think we all agree we don't want to spend money on that, because we're going to go somewhere else, and we're going to find water, feel real good about that. But we're making decisions now for generations later. To give up those circles of hope, we won't be here to have to worry about it. I'm just,
Yeah.
And it's not an easy, we don't want to get into a planning board discussion on this board, so we'll leave it to them. But it is a difficult decision, because they do have issues with Holbrook Street.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other development issues.
But anyway,
That's
we'll-
not us.
we'll-
I mean, what I would say is that I'm confident that the planning board understands the situation. In terms of each individual member decides, that's a whole nother question. But,
From
but
a
I
straight
think
water,
we're-
new source development point of view, it's gonna rank low, so that's,
So what are the next steps? So, what are we doing?
we're gonna create a map so that it's, visual helps, I think, everybody, certainly helps me,
And
and
that maps of potential
potential.
geographical areas.
And we're gonna rank, try to create a ranking system based on land area, soils, hydrogeo, if you will. I just, for lack of a better word, I call them hurdles, They can
Political,
take many shapes and
financial,
forms.
or other.
Permitting issues with DEP, when
Now,
ultimately.
what would, I'm asking because I don't know, what would influence permitting issues? I mean, other than the obvious, the 800-foot radius and all of that, what other issues would be involved in permitting?
When you do your pump test, is it drawing down the wetland too much, or the lake, or the river, the stream?
Or surface water kind of stuff?
Yeah,
I mean,
so if
okay.
it draws it down too much, is there a habitat there?
What happens if there's no, like,
So any conservation
streams or
issues?
surface water there? What
Endangered
is it?
species, all
Any
that kind of
conservation issues then?
stuff.
Okay.
Overall, yeah, conservation issues.
Right away, the DEP also has a layer, Jim, that you can see that they consider to be stressed. Because
Okay.
they know that other people are in their problem, and wouldn't it figure that.
They wouldn't let you
where
go
all
there
the water
anyway.
is.
That's
Yeah.
probably the most important one, actually. I skipped over that.
So then don't let the next time in. So whatever people have got in there now.
So we
like you said, they
can't,
got
we
the
can't
goal,
put a
we
well
can't-
next to
Well,
Franklin's?
those things can be trumped by, the sad facts. If we need water, and we're really all,
Dried out.
dehydrated, I mean.
They have to say-
Things are gonna have to be,
Right.
considered.
But in today's era?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And I would say costs, obviously, in there, meaning land costs, drilling
Infrastructure,
costs.
just building it, just getting into it, getting road access, or you're gonna need access. so-
Well, you'd have that anyway, I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, what would
The
be,
biggest
what would
cost
be,
would be, do we
what would
own
be
the
an
land or
out of
not?
the norm cost, other than the acquisition of land? Topography, perhaps? I mean,
Let's say Lawrence-
based on what you've said.
Proximity to our current system. I
Yes.
mean,
exactly.
Okay.
That's-
Lawrence Street would
Yeah,
be a good.
distribution.
Yeah. Land,
So obviously, pipes, and the expense of getting it to the.
So if we
okay.
find 6 sites and we're going after them, you can probably, it'd probably be safe to budget $50,000 for each one of them, just to go see if we got a shot at a good site.
some of them will have to negotiate.
And how much do we have in, was it 600 and some odd thousand in capital?
In retained earnings?
Yeah, retained
Right
earnings?
around there. I don't know what's been certified, but I think you're close,
Six-
maybe more even.
Okay. I thought it was a little over 600. Okay.
In terms of proximity to the Charles River, even the Holbrook site is not that far away. Any sense for what is considered too close to the Charles River?
That's about the line. Anything inside from, ironically, the best, the least stressed areas in this town is over by 1A, which, what's over there, Valley Street and that kind of area.
Pondview area.
But there's, the old hospitals there, there's, contamination
What is
concerns.
the least stress, but what does it look like for water? I mean,
That's the area,
The hydrogeo.
least stressed.
least stress, but does it also have good water quality? I mean, is there water there that you had? I know it's
Well,
least
you
stress,
get
of
up
course,
there
because maybe
and
there's no
pump
water, okay.
It's all part of that. We have concerns because we had Caritas is up there now, but it was the old Pondville Hospital.
Sure.
And what were some of the other things, Jack? There was only one other factor, that made that. Most of the property's eaten up, number one. So there's not a lot to choose from down there. I mean, who owns what? You got the area of Transit Seed where there's already an existing well that was shut down. That supplied that little area for water, for potable water.
Talking about
years ago.
the pump that was there for the well, for the state?
No.
No.
There was
Which
a
one are you
private-
talking about?
This is going
There was a
back
private well
years and
back-
years ago.
60s and 70s.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And that would supply the drinking water for that area. And then,
I never knew that.
And a tank that was there too, yeah.
then a few things happened that I'm just really not sure of, but that, they shut down that well, and, the town picked up the system from there, and here we are today. But-
Well, talking about the 1A area, which does include the old Caritas property.
Yeah.
And we're in discussions about that now. And he knows there's a water issue there. I mean, I would think that would be a partnership, if it's a viable source, that, to me, I would think would be a partnership that would really be on the table, that could work to both parties' advantages.
Right.
I mean, should that not become a higher priority of discussion if that's a viable alternative?
As far as permitting, it would go the best with the state.
I mean, I would think it would.
And they had an old well, so why not, I don't understand why, and not as simple as just
Well, it
restart
was
it. If
a-
it worked, why not?
No,
If they broke,
I'm talking about a new source.
I know, but-
Right,
On-
but still, there was radiation treatment up there. There's an old landfill up there, so,
Right, but that's on a specific area. Now, and you can test the soil. And of course, his responsibility would be to clean that all up anyway.
Saying in
Whether-
dream scenario, it was all
know.
remediated.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not suggesting we want to get into tainted water, that's not, but, you know,
But it wasn't
please,
tainted
don't
before,
go there.
Well,
But-
back
but-
to
but-
Lawrence Street, we tested it, Lawrence Street has a landfill there. And
Yeah.
and we tested that, it was perfectly clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
No iron, no manganese, very, very exciting as far as water quality.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the
Well, I
volume.
mean, what I know of what you've done, and what, it would seem that those would be two areas we'd want to have some good, serious conversations about.
I mean, the only thing I know about that area, going back to Board of Health, there was something called Duck Farm Springs there a long time ago, I guess. And you could, I think, buy bottled water.
Yeah.
And then there was groundwater contamination, I don't know, it was trichloroethane or, some hydrocarbon solvent. And so, the quality of the surface water, I guess, is questionable. I don't know in terms of the aquifer and, the impact on the aquifer. I just don't know, but.
Well, it does
Jim's
impact it
point,
because, yeah, I mean, we had, the Noon Hill area had that, where apparently there was an old business that was up in the Noon Hill area before the development back in the 60s, 50s, and 60s that had stuff that shouldn't have been put in the ground, got put in the ground, and eventually contaminated several of the wells. But it took a long time, but it doesn't matter. It contaminated the wells, and that's when the town agreed to put in town water all up and down the New Hill area. But that's what happened. It's an old business, unbeknownst to anyone. I don't think anybody knew it was ever there until the problem arose, and they researched it and found out the source of the cause of the problem.
I think there
We don't
was-
know how many other spots there are like that.
I think at one time, folks would come here and dispose of waste here in that area, I believe is what I was told. It wasn't necessarily just from businesses that were in that location.
You know, up in the Noon Hill area?
If you go back to the 60s and
Yeah.
stuff, you had people, driving trucks and pushing drums of solvent
Yep.
off in the middle of the countryside and stuff. I mean, it was a different time.
When I first moved here, we used to go to the dump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things, Jim, one of the first things, excuse me, is, I think, and Jack, I think, agrees because we talked about it, is that we go out this door right to the state school and get something that's already there in the ground, distribution systems in, talk to the state school because their population is decreasing, and they're welcome to stay there forever. Take and do a leak detection, upgrade that system. Well, first of all, get an agreement that, we can, if we
And I
can.
thought they wouldn't engage in, they weren't receptive.
No, I don't think it was represented right, number one. All we know is that somebody asked the secretary to make a phone call to somebody else, and they're,
So we haven't
we need
talked to
to
the right
sit down
people.
intelligently and show all the goods to this, because to me, I see nothing but positive. You take some of the factors we discussed a little bit today. There's a state school there, and if we took the water system over and supplied them their water and eliminated their overhead, wouldn't that be wonderful for the state?
No cost. They
that
got
be wonderful?
basically free water at no cost.
Right. Wouldn't that be wonderful for us? When it comes to what the SWIMI regs are coming out with, is that we have Spruce Road, 1,700 feet, because I measured it today, is that well site. So one could play off the other. So when one's down, the other one could go, and you get your gives and your takes underground, if that's a factor. The other thing too is right now, the prison system is depending on us for water. We're opening, and Phil opened up a connection to give them water, because they have a clientele too. And they're desperate for water, and they're right now, I think they're building a treatment center. So you got two state factions that I can't see how.
I would say no. and they-
Bottom
Vote 'em
line
freebies.
is the permitting would be expedited.
Yeah, I mean.
Logic would say that.
DEP doesn't want us to drill any more holes, or anybody else for that matter. If we could just optimize what we have, right, that'd be like incredible. So I think we need to go in and investigate
talk to
that.
the Jack?
3 years, at 5 years, maybe
Walk
come
in
3
or
years.
that's
Yeah, and then,
I'm
it'll
about
be
just
next
walking
year.
in.
Could be
I'm
next
sorry.
year. You think it would be that
we'll just
quick?
have to walk in.
Well,
To the state school, who has to make that decision?
if they say that we'd go ahead and do it now, and then we could take over that site,
why don't
supply
we-
them the water, manage it for them.
I mean, if we didn't talk to the right people or engage them in the right way, why don't we sort of reinvigorate that and
No, I absolutely
the
agree
right people the right
100%.
way.
The problem is we've run into slammed into a cement wall twice. And Bob's right. It's all about making the right connection. We've tried to go through we tried to go back in Butch's era to go through the back door and, work our way through the working people, if you will. We didn't get anywhere. So more recently, we've gone through Senator Ross's office, and he was not successful.
Why don't we go up to the state school and find out who's running the place and sit down and talk with them?
They probably can't make
No,
that
and that's what
decision,
Bob's
yeah.
saying
Well,
too.
but they
Yeah.
can,
Well, that's
they
what
can
we did with
initiate,
Butch, but
they
it's
can
different people
initiate,
now.
they may not be the decision
Right.
maker in truth, but if they find some benefit to a partnership like that, they can help advocate.
Especially someone like your level, Jack, who's in charge of the finances.
Internal
and trying to scrim
advocation is far
for-
better than external advocation.
Right, you know what I mean, needs to cut costs or needs to find a way in a budget. Wouldn't you be receptive if someone, again, if you get past our board, same with, there must be a person over like you.
Yep. No.
Says, you know, I'm stuck, I have $700,000 hole, and these guys will take off
Somebody up there
$300,000.
can
I
be
know
an
it's not gonna be
advocate.
that easy, right, because it's gonna be
No,
the state.
and you know, I'm not putting the blame on Rich, you know, Senator Ross, but, you know, I was kind of confident that that was going to
Right,
be our
the right
best
way.
effort, because Rentham has been very successful working with the state school, and that was a lot through Richard, so,
For the
Yeah,
fields
so-
especially, yeah.
yeah, so I was disappointed when that, you know, that didn't work
Because
out.
Bob said, it sounds too
But-
good, like, they must be afraid it's too good to be
I'd
true.
like to
It's
just find out why it wouldn't work,
Right.
because,
Yeah,
you know,
maybe they have a good reason.
As far as volume, that site's permitted for 300 gallons, 300,000 gallons a day, and they use less than 100. So there would be an extra 200, let's say, for us to take in that. So I'll take that.
Put that in perspective, what are our current wells, and just for me, gallons per day, how much are we putting out in like one of our?
250 to 3?
Yeah, right in that range.
Per well?
Each, yeah.
yeah. I
So
mean,
that's good, so we almost get like another well, in a sense, another
Almost
source
like
about what we're
redundant
currently putting out
source, yeah.
today, with minimal cost. to
Like
the
Bob
tax-
said, if they could, if we get some leak detection down, maybe they get the 100 down even a little less. So,
We do the leak detection for them
so
too?
it'd be something worthwhile.
yeah,
if it
go in and
would,
do a clean sweep. They even have a storage tank. I don't know the condition of that, but, and it looks to me, just eyeballing it, maybe it's 500,000 gallons as compared to we got 1 million. But, you know, if we were going to in there, I don't know when the last time their well site was cleaned. Maybe they're doing a great job, and I just don't know it. But, I mean, we don't know until we ask, so we need to sit down and talk to them. But maybe if we did a leak detection and found out that they're losing 200, I don't, there's two ways of measuring it. What gets pumped out of the well and what gets metered. So, you know, we just don't have that information to share with you right now until we sit
But it
down.
would certainly be the first place to pursue.
Yeah, another 100,000 gallons a day would be just tremendous. And then the second thing is, I think, and it was always on the table to go to, sit down with Franklin and talk about the Mill River site. We made an investment. It sits there. We have a pipe in the ground, right?
Yeah.
it was well on the ground.
And they were pumping 1,500 gallons a minute. And I don't know if it was a prolonged test, there's test results that we could share with you and stuff like that, but the roadblock right now is that Franklin has a couple of wells not far from there, they call 4 and 5. And I know I'm close with this, but I don't know if I'm exactly right, but number 4 has an effect on Kingsbury Pond, and number 5, I'm not sure if what that has an effect on, or if we have the effect on that.
Yes.
I think that's what it is. But if there's such a great supply in our Mill River site, and we're almost positive that it is the greatest of all wells that we think, that maybe we should sit down with Franklin and talk about this optimizing again. Maybe they could shut down their well number 4 and let Kingsbury Pond live if we can supply them what they've lost there for that. Little things like that. So,
If
we need to hurry up and do that.
Sure,
This is
sure.
the town line, Franklin's well 5, here's our Mill River. When we pump this at 1,500 gallons a minute, we draw their well down to like 2.5 feet, let's say, which is not acceptable. I mean, you gotta be inches or centimeters. But if we paired this test back to say 300 gallons a minute rather than 1,500, how do we do that? Maybe it's okay.
Or alternatively, as you suggested, shut one down and feed both systems off
Yes.
one.
Franklin,
Keep that as a backup.
right. Franklin would like to buy this and sell us water back at a lesser rate.
But that's ours.
Yeah, they want to make it theirs.
Well, this,
I mean,
back to
they're-
the state, that's theirs. So you have the parochial thing going on, you know?
Smart business on there, if you will.
Well, no,
over
no,
there.
no,
It's-
but I mean,
Well, it's almost like they have the territory.
Right, it's like they're a
Because their well's
franchisee,
there.
right.
They were the
They
first
have an
one at the
existing-
table, so.
Existing 2 wells
Well,
that.
why, I mean, if it was really, just devil's advocate, if they want to buy, we sell it, we get some money, and just like we're trying to promise to rent them, they give us the water almost free, because they're going to still get more capacity, right?
Yeah,
So why wouldn't they, you know, I mean, we're offering to do the same thing with state school, why aren't we open to do it Franklin, if they're not gonna gouge us?
Well, there's a history there.
there's a history of
There's a
being
history
gouged.
there.
But you have new people, I'm just saying, if that's what we're asking Rentham to do, even though I believe it's the right thing, 'cause we're
Yeah,
not gonna
new
gouge.
people, but for one person.
But you know what I'm saying, like, again, you gotta go back and try, like you said, listen, guys, you can use this, because you're gonna up your capacity X fold, Phil said, but we get 100,000 gallons, or whatever is fair, at no cost, no or some reasonable, no gouging us, because now you own it, and you increase your system over there. I mean,
That's logical.
But that's what we're asking them to, see now,
No, and again, with
when's the last time we asked
obviously with
them?
Phil's expertise, we can make a different pitch now, and a more
Doesn't hurt.
educated,
Yeah, doesn't hurt.
proposal.
I don't know what we did in the
Absolutely, we
past.
can do it. It'll help us. But in all, in
Be
my-
fair and blunt, I don't know
my
what to-
experience with dealing with Franklin, with Millis,
Yeah.
it's happened with Rentham. It's very, very territorial, and
Franklin's
and-
is worse.
And the political folks, other than you three, get so territorial about
That's why I
protecting.
give water, I mean, we're protecting,
Franklin will protect, historically anyway, Franklin will protect their rights to that well as if we're trying to steal their child.
right. Because in case they ever need, no, it's their fifth well, as opposed to we get two, or whatever. All I'm
Just
saying-
like we're trying to
They have
protect
they have
that
12
radius on Holbrook
Whatever.
Street.
We have two.
That's what they would protect
All
that.
would develop.
And there's a part of me that understands it, but, but-
Absolutely.
But an unwillingness to, and I know we had history with this, I remember it very well, but it never hurts to sit down and have a discussion, just to see if there isn't a win-win out of that opportunity.
No, it's definitely time to do it, and as I said, with Phil.
For all of
with
us. I mean,
Right, because we're asking the state school to take that same leap of faith. Now, you guys have the history, right? Right, because we're asking.
Absolutely, it's
I think
very
what
The
similar.
only thing with
Right?
the state school, I don't know what, when you were describing that before, is to say, go along with Franklin, give them that piece of land, and then get water from them?
Yeah.
No. I did not say that.
No, I thought,
I
is that
did.
what you said?
Yeah.
Right. The difference with the state school is in Norfolk. It's on our property.
Right,
The well.
This is on our property.
right.
Right.
So be careful of that, because I can
It's
tell
our
you
well,
an
it's on our
example of.
property.
Right, but we're never going to get to use it, though, it sounds like. I'm just saying,
Well,
again, worth,
But I understand, but I mean, I guess I just have a
Oh,
little
we certainly
history with
listen to the,
Franklin.
I don't have
we
to
listen
take
to
this-
the.
the problem is
They've
you
threatened
guys have
to shut
territory.
water off on our residents on certain
Right,
lines.
okay, let's put it on
with
the side.
Franklin. So
Times
we
have changed,
just-
let's pretend
they're
they're
not
not going to change.
reasonable.
Well, they might be. Again, we're making
Remember.
presumptions, I
Yeah.
get that. But I'm just saying, if they don't, they're not, I'm not territorial, Jim is, I don't mind giving up something if it helps all the residents. And again, we have agreements, no shutting off our people. We get the flow you want at what you want. I'm not territorial, I don't care if it's on my property, Franklin's.
Yeah.
In principle, I agree with you.
That's how it should
In
start.
principle, I agree with you.
Right, so
But
start there and
But
object
fool me
later.
once, fool me twice.
Right.
We've had territorial issues with Town Franklin before.
Right.
We've had clear understandings, and the track record of
Sure.
sovereignty has been somewhat,
Okay, I just knew, because I'm
hasn't
new.
been very good.
This is
Let's
my
put
Well,
it that way.
Jack seems to have done a great job bringing them into the rec program
so I'm
here, so
started
we got
there.
something to build on.
Might
mean,
very
no,
well.
Absolutely.
It's a new 2 years, I mean, it's only 2 years, I know you guys all, I
Should
don't
be
have
our
history,
Trojan
so to
horse.
me, I'd go into say.
Well, history can get in the way, too.
Right.
So you're 100% right. I'm
don't
not
think-
suggesting we don't go
Right.
back and talk. And
Not that I have
frankly, I don't
unlimited time,
care,
but, yeah.
I don't care who owns it.
Right, as long as
I
everyone-
only care what the agreement is on what we get out of it.
Exactly.
So I
They've
don't
only,
disagree with you.
they've had,
It probably won't work.
it's
I don't know.
been,
No harm in asking.
it's been, offhand remarks. It was never back when we were having negotiations. It's been only offhand remarks since then, when they've talked about taking the property and giving us water at either a discount or.
Right.
Market rate.
The,
I wouldn't mind hearing the proposal, because if we
I
can
wouldn't
get-
either.
If we can get 100 or 200,000 gallons
at our
a minute
cost.
a day or whatever,
Yeah,
it'd be great.
Absolutely. I mean,
saves
if
millions of
they're willing to
development.
take it and give us and we get an ironclad guarantee of what we get, and ironclad on the cost,
Yeah.
because every town around us has tried to sort of beat us on that cost.
Right.
You
Yeah, I don't
know,
want to
mean,
make a profit from
They
it.
hold,
No
they
business.
hold you hostage.
Right.
And
And it would be great, obviously, to solve the Kingsbury Pond problem, too.
It
which
would.
I point to up
Let's
on
see,
the.
when you slide these up a mile, right on the town line, you have Kingsbury Pond.
Like this
Yeah,
is
the
better,
other
I can
well.
deliver this, I can follow this now.
We've asked them to stop pumping that so hard, so you stop driving down Kingsbury Pond.
And they say,
So, and they've said, okay, if we hold off on that, then we're gonna need this one all that much more. So that's the other piece
so,
of
well,
that.
then there's,
lot
well,
to give and take it. See,
Yeah.
maybe you don't try, I don't know, I haven't had any demos with them, so I don't know.
Well, can I bring these ponds back?
Aren't you friends with like the
pretty soon.
DPW guy?
Yeah.
Can't you talk like man to
If
man?
that's-
eat the closed well.
Those minutes have to stay in the minutes, just so you know.
Yeah, they're part of that meeting now.
But if this is our Mill River, and that's their number 5, and this is the line, the town line and stuff like that, I think that it was left with the DEP for us to work it out on the side, because there was a thought that we could pump this down to the point where we see something going on with that, then we gotta stop. So we may not even need to sit down and go ahead and go forward with this and only get 300, which is enormous right now, because we need 300, that's all we're getting out of our other wells.
That's what I mean, yeah.
And if at 300, that starts to move, then that's the way that could be the situation. Did you hear some kind of balance of that?
Exactly right, that could be 200,
So-
whatever the
so
number is.
put that back into English here. Which
Should
are
we
you?
use that then?
We walked away too early, is what I'm thinking we did.
Well, that's what I thought you just said.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you just said.
Because this goes back to what, 95 when we purchased the land, 97 or something like that?
You said what I thought you said then.
Yep.
Okay. Then we
And,
need-
you know,
then
we're being
then we
good
might want to
neighbors,
walk back.
And we do get along with Franklin, we get along with Brutus, and, you know,
That's not the issue.
that I know of.
You know, I know.
So I think we go back and try it, and then if we don't meet with satisfaction, we gotta look up and say, okay, DEP, what can we do, and go ahead and do it.
It's gotta be, it's not gonna be any worse than the situation right now, because right now we're not benefiting at all, right? So
Could
if
been that
anything-
we just walked away too early.
The 16 different sites, you can talk about each one of them for an hour and a half.
Does that have an impact on Kingsbury?
I don't think so, but maybe some trickling type of, I mean, how far away is it if you were to, do you even know? No, from
Don't
Mill
move it.
River.
You can't move it. You got to keep it where it is.
Yeah, by the way, you should have moved them over there. But,
I don't know, we might,
Mill
no, we
River
just
and
need
Kingsbury
another,
Pond, how far away is that?
need some more map stuff there. I like the pictures, I can follow.
We talking like a mile or a
Yeah,
half?
something like a mile. yeah.
So that's a long travel underground, you know, we're talking
How
underground
close is the
oceans.
Franklin well?
These two here?
Yeah,
I hit a golf ball to it maybe or something
that's
like
what I
that.
thought. Yeah.
So what's a mile away? I missed that part.
Our Mill River
Yeah.
in the Kingsbury Pond, or their number 4,
Oh,
I think is a good long distance where I don't think that this had an effect on that, but I think I did hear that, though.
Is there a way of testing?
Or maybe it was by way of going what you can't do here, because this well might have to work harder to make up for Kingsbury.
Is there a way of testing that?
yeah,
Yeah,
pump
through
it
the
as hard
test,
as you
through the,
can for
No, I
5
mean,
or
to
6
ensure
days.
what, the impact component.
Right, that's part of the permitting
You can
process, no
test
matter
that,
what happens.
okay.
That's what I would have told
No,
the
no,
trout
you
club
can,
as
you
well,
have
you
to.
know.
You have to, okay.
They look
Well,
at any movement in the water like
some
this,
of
and
these
we
are
don't
dumb
get it
questions.
anyways.
Bear with me.
No, it's-
Yeah.
I mean, the test is to just pump it as hard as you can and see where
what
the
it does.
impacts are.
That's
And
the
then do you
test.
keep scaling back to see what causes no effect? Phil, is that what you do, like,
Right.
turn the spigot on and say it
Not
does
rocket
500?
science. Not rocket
and then you
science.
No,
find
yeah,
an
that's a
optimal
pretty
at
simple test,
300,
yeah.
It doesn't do anything to anything around, and then you
Right.
say, good, then it does. And if you like that, if that gives you enough to live on, you say, okay, keep going with the permitting process, let us build the well, the real well.
I mean, it
Well,
could
then
put-
you've got 3 areas that we could quickly revisit and see how far we can
We'd
get.
like to put all these on the map.
Yeah, let's do that too,
but
yeah.
I- you know,
You know, some of these rank real high right off the bat.
Well,
you know,
2 of them for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those ones
Because we own, I
There
mean,
were-
to me, that's one of the big criteria.
And we don't need to get into it, but Steve was talking about other complexities with Mill River, I thought, unless it was a different site, but he started
been
talking about,
Lawrence.
what's that?
might have been Lawrence.
Oh, was it Lawrence Street?
There could be a
mean?
uphill fight to get Lawrence permitted.
No, I thought he was talking about,
No.
I thought he was talking about construction costs, and there was, never mind. We
Let's just rank, as Phil said, let's get that, on. That's part of the chart, that's one of the
Well,
variables.
I was always, maybe I'm wrong, Jack, but I was under the impression that that one was a political issue.
Yes.
yes.
That there weren't other issues in the way, that this was just purely a political issue.
Oh, was it Gold Street that he talked about? There was like $1 million
Wrong?
cost that we were.
I think you're right.
That's what I've always understood that to be, and it goes back a while.
I think it was I think everything was okay with the DEP up until the point where it was still okay, but go ahead, you guys, and talk it over and see what you want to do.
That's what I thought.
But that doesn't mean that we pick it up from where we started up, and then we find out through the permitting and
Well,
the test that
but
something
you won't
else
know that.
happens,
You
which
won't
is
know that.
innocent and in the
Right.
future, right?
Yeah.
But I'm looking at next summer, for some of these things, and that's why I say the state school is something we can do, like, hurry up and let's go ahead and do it. And, the interconnections is a quick
Deal
fix.
with the state, that's an oxymoron, though. Unless you get the right people, right, Bob? However you do it, it could take, even though it's not permitting, it could take years just to get.
But the
them-
interconnections, those are the quick fixes and
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
know
that. But
what you
the
mean,
interconnection's not gonna do, suppose Rentham gets
Yeah, they
into a
get-
problem, they can't feed us more
I
water.
would think that Richard would at least know who the contacts are.
Yeah.
Who we contacted, maybe not to put them on the spot, but yeah, who we contacted.
Oh, we have some of the email correspondence, and
Did it have a title like facilities director, executive director of state school? I mean, usually start right at the top, right? Just
Yeah.
work down from- Whoever's in charge of the money, because he or she needs probably money, right? Because it's a state organization. You know, I mean, if they're cutting out a cost, I know
The
it's not that
response to
simple.
our, the response to our inquiry through Senator Ross's aid, the answer from the director at the
the
state
director,
school
okay.
said, thank you, but no thank you. This place is thriving and we intend to stay open. So her
Hey, Mr.
response to us looked like,
It sounds like we had the wrong context of the conversation.
yeah. Yep.
and
Well,
all we're
yeah,
saying is, oh, we hope you stay there forever.
We're thriving even more and grow, you still have enough capacity.
Yeah.
And if you ever need it back by, for instance, FYI, if you double your population,
Yeah, it sounds
we'll
like
have something in the
it
agreement
sounds like
saying
we have
have
the
to
wrong
get back to
address
you,
on
right?
the
If they need-
package.
If they
So-
need the 300, honestly, it's theirs to get back. So
So-
we're not tripling you, I'm not saying, people can't have water in your, if you triple your population, it's yours. We're
Yeah.
just gonna use it until not, why, unless it's a waste of water.
I think there was a misunderstanding.
And by the way, we're gonna lower your costs. I was going for sales. Listen, how would you like to cut $30,000 off your budget?
I'd like to have it for nothing. I mean,
Just the budget, just the
who knows?
facilities
Well,
maintenance cost.
I can't say that in front of him. So you get this, you get the
It's going to kill me.
Department of Mental Health would love it. The Department of Correction would love it. The DEP would love it, and the town of Norfolk would love it.
So, geez.
So where's the
not to
problem?
like?
Right, and we're not saying you're thriving or not thriving, it's not even a debate on that, it's just you have excess capacity now.
If
and
it,
we'll
if it's
monitor
a
it,
job
if it
security
changes,
and a power struggle where maybe there's some employees over there,
We'll take them on.
It-
then we
it's-
put them on the payroll maybe, or
Sure,
we'll
I mean,
look at
yeah,
it.
all things within
But,
reason.
well, there's a basic process to that. So, we see a lot of wins, help us understand what the concerns are.
Exactly,
Tell
that's
us
it.
tell us the issues.
Not an email.
What's in the way, get
Yep.
that list, work it through, and see where we go.
It still might be a problem, in the end, it still might be no, but.
I'm sure they'll have issues. I mean, even if
Look
they're
at
not
the time.
valid, they'll have issues. And
I'll look at the time, sorry.
so we just need to get that list.
Water's big, Jack, this is the problem you guys been saying, Bob's been telling us, this keeps him up at night, it keeps you up at night, so. So we got other ideas then? We gonna put that, we'll get a map, we'll have that,
We'll send Hillary over.
so I'll have some map I can play with, I can
And I
kind
think,
of, not those.
and I think,
Handouts too,
have
Phil.
those too, right?
I want citizen handouts.
Can you keep us updated on this?
Phil loves coming to these meetings. He'll be happy to.
Well, you don't want to do that, especially if you have to drive a truck with a decal on it. But
You look silly driving around town, your wife hates it, or whoever, is like, I don't like that.
and it's a
decal."
fluorescent decal. Did we tell you that?
Glows.
But no, I mean, could you guys just keep us, or through Jack? Just this is something I think. I mean, I'd like to stay real close to.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we make some progress that can hit paper, it's easy enough to roll out a plan.
But even staff, where can we help? I mean, we'll go. I'm sure one of us can go to the meetings with you or do whatever we can to help. I mean, you may not want us, but I mean, but if you do, we'd be willing to do anything we can to go visit with these parties, to whether it be Franklin or the state school or whatever.
Absolutely.
Just like I said, to have a conversation. at
We
least.
can
Don't say
put a
no
tie
before
on
you-
and look good for an hour, maybe.
Anything else, Phil? I know we put you
Give
on
us
the
more
spot.
credibility, if nothing else.
And I think, if we would ever face a situation where we're having to contend with one or more unpleasant parties because of something that may be in the best overall interest of the town, all the work that you're doing is gonna help put that in perspective for folks, so that, and for us, so that we can evaluate, making, perhaps a difficult decision that perhaps not everyone is gonna be satisfied with. And that comment is not directed at Holbrook, I'm just making a general comment that until we do that due diligence, I
People
don't
say,
know that
"Just
we're
look
gonna
at
be in
everywhere,
a
why are you
position
taking
to
my
make a
land?"
tough decision, because we don't have the,
Yeah, then you can
all
answer
the
the question.
information we need.
There you go.
I mean, if I remember your plan, Bob, you probably, I think you could, and maybe push it, Jack, you jump me if I give a number that's not right, but I think you had about 225, somewhere in that range, set aside when you originally presented this to us, talking about in retained earnings of the 600 and change.
it was 50,000.
No, that was for emergency,
No, retained
Was that
earnings.
just for exploration?
50,000, right.
When you said you had
No,
six.
there was
it's 50.
$50,000 in retained earnings.
No, but you've got over 600,000.
Right. But, I'm sorry,
Talking about two different things.
I thought you said years ago when we.
Oh, no,
when we
no, no,
first
I'm
had a
talking about
plan.
now,
Okay, okay.
now.
Because Jim's just doing math, you want 6 sites, 50,000. You
Right,
need to
I'm
spend
just
300,000.
saying, you've got the ability to do some work here.
Yeah, and we've got some declining debt, that if we get to the point where we're gonna build a
Right.
well, we could take on some more debt
Yeah, then there's,
in the water
the
department.
exploration is one cost, and then,
Right.
the
Next.
land acquisition, if that's what it is, it could be a large cost. The building could be a large cost.
There are a lot of variables in there.
And then we haven't even touched, looking at looping and all the other things for water quality.
How far is that Rentham well from a connection?
BDO. It's,
It already exists. It already exists.
already
yeah,
exists.
Connection
it's
already
been
exists.
cut, but it's all inside a manhole. We just
Yeah.
upgrade the manhole and, plumb it back together.
It's right off of Union, right? Is that where it is?
Yeah, Union
Well,
and,
Yeah,
Shears.
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, the access road is right on Union, the dirt road there.
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, we keep it longer than you probably anticipated.
Before you leave, our next topic, much less interesting, is the wastewater.
Thank you, Phil.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Phil. Good
Yeah,
night.
thank you.
See you later, Phil.
It has the word water in it. We don't want
Drive
Phil
that
to
truck
stay.
carefully.
Phil doesn't deal with dirty water, right, Phil? It's all clean water.
Phil actually is licensed to deal with wastewater, so.
Oh.
You might want to sit on this.
No, you can go. That's fine.
Please.
You two guys want to
Welcome,
argue
Stay.
about this?
Have a date.
Yeah.
We're going to go, we have an appointment out in Worcester tomorrow to go meet with the DEP folks, who coincidentally, the people we're meeting with oversee water and wastewater.
You're working the good word
So,
then.
so it'll be a good conversation. But we're going to go talk to, they actually invited us out. They knew our town meeting was going on, and so they've invited us out to come talk about the treatment plant in the center of town. So I just wanted to, let you guys know that. We take,
Talk about it in a good way or just to see?
Oh, good
check
way.
in? I mean, just to say,
well, really, we've had conversations about the, I called them up doing some
due diligence.
historical, I didn't want to overdo due diligence tonight, so I was going to do some fact-finding, but
Probably not, probably me.
no, not at all. I would never do that. I would never make fun of a
Make a
selectman.
note here.
So anyway, so I've had conversations with them about the, what their, from their perspective, what the condition of the plant was, et cetera, et cetera. So this is actually to talk about, they're excited about us taking it over, so they want to talk to us about the transition, give us some, we're going to be doing a lot of listening to them, talking about what they want to see us do.
Best practices,
Best
different
practices
stuff.
for the transition and ongoing.
Well, since you're in a touchy, happy-feeling mood, let's just broach the subject of water then and helping us out.
Exactly.
I mean, seriously, you got them there, they love us, because I think they're probably happy that a municipality's taking over than a private business, I'm assuming.
They are
they're
very happy,
Good or
because
bad, but
it's easier for them to put their teeth into us
I
than,
was gonna say, a private guy.
so anyway, so Bob and Phil are going tomorrow. I don't think anybody else is joining us, but they know that likely Whitewater will be our contractor. They'll be running the facility and doing the testing and, maintenance, at least to begin with. So we're anxious to get that going, and with the idea of trying to take this over January 1st, if possible.
So, when we take this over January 1st, how do the financials work in terms of the homeowner's assessment?
We will start after we talk to DEP. I'm going to have some more conversations with both Borelli and with the association and with the business owner, just to talk about their experiences and if we need to change anything. But my understanding is we'll just start billing in January on a monthly basis.
Are they billed separately for that system, or is it part of their condo fee? I thought it was part of their condo fee.
Borelli sends out two bills, one to the condo association and one to the business property owner. So that's
But-
all.
But the property owner pays it out of the condo association fees.
The association pays it out of the association. Then, they then subdivide that to all the condominiums based on number of bedrooms and
So we don't have to
any other
subdivide
fact.
the cost.
Yeah, so we don't have to do that. We just have to bill the association
For-
for a certain percentage.
Okay, and so if we reduce that fee, it subsequently would reduce the condo fee.
Absolutely. Well,
Well, they might keep.
Whatever
they
percent
say-
that
Not
is.
necessarily. It's up to the association.
Well,
I would
the-
assume
the-
so,
the-
logically,
well,
yes.
Let me put it a different way. The cost that the association will incur will be less
Right.
when
The
we
fee
take
might
it
stay
over.
the same.
How they choose to share that back is their decision,
Correct.
They might want to keep more on retainers.
not Borelli's decision.
is what it is.
Oh, it's the associations.
Okay, so Borelli, he still
Raleigh
has...
would not be involved in this process at all.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, so we would build, and I don't know the percentages right off the top of my head. But we're gonna take, our budget for the 6 months, and we're just gonna build the
We're
associate.
paying, I think, what, 57% of the cost?
See, I didn't wanna say them off the top of my head, because I didn't wanna misstate the number.
Whatever it is, we'll just keep that practice going.
But we're gonna keep it the same, it's all in documented what that number would be. So we'll build the association, and as you said, they'll then divide that out, and as long as the association pays us, we don't care how they get refunded by their
Based on our
tenants.
first run at this,
Mm-hmm.
which I know you were cautious in your numbers, you were,
Yep.
you were giving us a little breathing room, was about a $20,000 savings
Yeah. Per year.
per year.
Yeah, and I don't have any reason to think that won't happen.
No, I don't either, based on what we know other ones. I mean, this wasn't a pie-in-the-sky number. I mean, it came from a good analysis of similar sites and what they cost and don't cost.
So, I mean, you would think that those funds might be helpful and might be used to deal with some of the other items that have come up and
Well,
aren't
they would have that
necessarily
choice.
included
You're,
the
Jeff, you're right
context
on.
of
That's
the
kind of where I was
agreement.
going.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's their call, but the point is that we're giving them some additional resources that
do
they
what
can
they
either
want.
pass back in savings,
Use for infrastructure.
or they can
improvements.
use it to deal with some of the other issues that they have going on up there.
Right.
But
That's
right.
their call, their decision. That's why I was at,
They could keep the condo fees
That's where I was
flat,
going.
and they'll have more money, or they
that's where I
can
was going with it.
pass on the
Okay.
savings to the.
It's all good news. I mean, it gives them control over
Their destiny.
some components of it. That's, 20 grand is 20 grand.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
I don't know, anything else you wanted to add about the treatment plan at this point? I know the ZBA still has to go through a process, and that is
Just,
coming up.
just a little caution as to, I don't think that's a savings that you're gonna realize overnight. I think we need to study this for a year, and then do a, kind of like a rate study. And I think we would head towards that 20, but I mean, we need to understand that system.
Well,
We need to get in there and understand
Yeah,
it.
but we
I
already-
think we're
we already
talking
voted
apples
a
and
budget
pears,
at
though.
town meeting, so we're,
We voted a budget for that operation for 6 months. We voted it. That's the number.
so you're locked in, Bob.
Okay.
So no fighting it.
Yeah.
Well, no,
keep
what
going
Bob's
down the
saying, though, what if it costs, $10,000 more than we budgeted for? And there's no $20,000 savings.
Well, yeah, there would be, the $20,000 savings would still be there for the first 10,000
Yeah.
for the first 6, it would still be there
But
because
every
that's a
year,
voted
there's gonna be
budget.
a rate
by
review,
town.
right, in terms of,
What, I mean,
Well,
you know how we
but
went
our
through the
numbers are
budget,
locked in
don't
pretty
you? You
good.
know how
I
we
mean, we
did
know
that.
what Whitewater's numbers are
wasn't
gonna be.
a pie-in-the-sky number.
Just
Okay.
recently, no, I have no idea how you went.
Well, we got it from Whitewater. I got,
Well, I saw the budget
yeah.
figures, but,
Right.
that was, like this,
Well, but we also looked at other wastewater treatment plants and what their costs were.
yeah. Oh, you
And-
did it the
and then-
best in
and
the
then
only way
we-
you could.
And then we added some security
Yeah.
to the process, because you're right, we don't know for sure.
Right.
So we added some leverage at the other end in case we're wrong, so that we're not in a position of running at a deficit. And then that's where the number came from, and that we voted at town meeting. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not an engineer, but I think it's a pretty secure number.
Yeah, and you haven't, you and I need to spend some more time working on this, and, the good news is we've got a 6-month period here that, I still think we have a conservative budget that we can live within, and then May comes around pretty quickly now.
You're gonna vote another month,
We
meet
can
budget
make-
in
We
July.
can make adjustments in May if we need to.
In July?
Well, July 1st,
Okay,
yeah.
all time with the same budget process. It'll get
Yes.
approved and go through the,
Correct.
exactly, and,
Yeah,
yep,
yep. So it's a 6-month trial.
yep,
And
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so we will get back to you after we talk to DEP tomorrow.
I mean, we even put into that,
It's all
Bob,
water. I don't care about
we put
wastewater. I
in
care
a
about
number
water.
for
water
short-term capital
departments.
needs.
Huh? Yeah, no, yeah.
Put a
you're
number in
defining
there
it.
for long-term capital needs, which is not currently there. So there's anticipation that we're going to be retaining some of those earnings for those unanticipated
The
expenses.
surveillance cameras too, I think.
Everything that we did when we
Like, you know
planned
how to
out
fix
and
cameras
populated our water
Yeah, I
department
can put
came
a camera
true.
in your car right now.
We financed Phil's salary and with the work that we took on and away from the consultant. As a result, we find ourselves a step ahead of the consultants were. In other words, they're doing such a great job. It's like, and it came as to no cost to anybody, and it gave us the knowledge of what we're doing. We didn't
right.
just depend on guys from
And-
Plymouth and
Right,
stuff like that.
And
And
more
God bless the
and more
consultants.
and more
But-
control.
Right, and we understand it more. It's like we describe it as like, can't imagine, operating a submarine, but after you've done it for a couple of years, you heard a sound, you'd say, I know what that
the
is.
sonar's off.
And we
yeah.
got that now. We got that 2 years later. We can go into those pump stations, and we can smell when something's wrong.
Which we hope is not frequent.
Smell. We can hear when something's wrong.
Yeah. It had to do with the
Smell
wastewater
wasn't the right
treatment
word.
either.
Wake up.
All right. What else?
But I think that's what's going to happen anyways with this treatment plant. I think that Whitewater will go in and show us the way until we're comfortable, and then we can. And I think they know that. They're there to be our
Knowledge
big brother,
transfer. Knowledge
and
transfer, yeah.
the savings will be even greater.
Does Whitewater do River's Edge?
I don't think so.
I mean, it's not big. I'm just curious.
I forget now. They do a bunch in this area. I don't
Do you,
think.
do
I
you
don't
know?
think-
I don't know about River's Edge. It's easy to find out, but I don't know.
I'm
about
just
that one.
curious. No, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
I mean, if they did, I mean, you'd give you an even more accurate
Yeah.
understanding of exactly what,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's about similar size,
I
isn't it?
talked. Yeah, and I talked to them too. And,
I know you did.
and
I
we're
know you did.
within
I know
their
you got the
budget.
pricing on it and the
Yeah.
numbers and all that. But that's about the same size?
Yep.
What capacity are they at?
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't ask that question. That's a good question. I bet they're more in the 10 to 20,000 gallon per day range.
So they'd be better than half.
Yeah, and you only want to. One thing that I learned through this process is you don't want to exceed 80%. So really, when we say we have 30,000 gallons, we really only have 80% of 30,000.
4,000 gallons.
Yeah.
A flow to sell away. It's a sell, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, we're only using, what, 7 to 10?
Uh,
5.
yeah, 3 to 6.
3 to 5, yeah.
So
I was just curious what they were using, because and we don't have a lot of residents down there, and I know they're building some commercial sites now, but he hasn't got a lot more room for growth down there.
at
River's Edge.
Yeah, no,
He's
he won't
pretty
add
much,
on a
isn't
lot
he
of
pretty
more.
much maxed out?
You know, we won't add on. I mean, unless we add a lot of residential where we expect the businesses to be. I don't see us adding a lot of volume on, unless we add a restaurant.
Right, I would agree,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the businesses we have are small and don't need much capacity,
Right.
but a restaurant would be great,
It's a game.
and it wouldn't be limited to 48 seats.
Nope. No, the Whitewater guys did talk about, you have to have a lot of controls in place with the restaurants because you need to make sure what's going into the system and really be very diligent, otherwise you can mess your system up.
Grease traps, things like that.
Yep. Yep, and they already put the grease trap in at Sillis, so we're good to go.
Well, I saw the excavation in the
That's
street.
what it was.
That's what
It was
I thought
the-
it was.
it was
where
the grease trap.
driveway over there. See, I guessed right.
Anything else on the wastewater?
Smart man,
Jeff?
Mr. Palumbo.
Thank you.
More on wastewater?
No.
How about in action items?
Lake Street in the spring?
No action items. We did,
Maybe next week.
You gonna start Lake Street next week?
Well,
Should we adjourn? These two?
my best friend.
No, no,
He's
I
going to be
did,
instrumental in our next week's planning board meeting, but we have a tree
hearing.
hearing.
Got some cool sites too.
And I'd like to get going on that right away.
Treaty hearing?
Tree
tree.
hearing.
Oh, tree
cut.
hearing.
Yeah, treaty hearing has been done.
Yeah. With the King Philip's War, that's Franklin, and sounds like it's Franklin and Norfolk Wentham. It's the King Philip War, we call it.
Good thing we have that treaty in place, that's all I can say. So if that goes well, then you'll start right
Already
away?
talked to Tree Tech, they've come down and looked at everything, they have, for the tree meeting, identified the species, and we did the caliper sizes, and we have a presentation ready for the planning board, and if everything goes smooth, we can start in there, over the course of the winter, and then, pluck stumps, and I like to, depending on what the weather allows us to do, start up on the Main Street end, and start to show by example how we're going to do the rest of the street, because there's lots of concern down there.
I know.
And so if we just take it slow and we stay to our promises, it'll be a nice project that everybody will be glad we did.
Yeah, it's interesting on that street, you have people that don't want to see the upgrades, the improvements necessarily.
Yeah.
Right? They're
We had a
concerned
packed
about
road.
more people.
Some people
who
wanted
use
to-
the
Well, I don't know if you remember,
road,
we had several public hearings on that.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was
you
happening-
had to,
yeah,
because you had
yeah.
such a diverse group of opinions on this, you had
Yeah.
to let the people kind of decide, so to speak. I mean, what the heck, it's their street in many regards. But the consensus was overwhelming, I think, when we got there finally, to fix it, as long as it's fixed within, keeping it the same width and, those kind of.
Right.
Yeah. Because you can't keep doing what we're doing.
Jack, you were saying?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I had to add was we talked about it very briefly, was just their tax rate. So last week we had the tax rate hearing.
You want to let Mr.
Oh, he doesn't want to. Bob,
He's a
Want to hang
citizen.
around?
He's a resident of Norfolk,
You're welcome to go.
hears about
You're
that.
dismissed.
We never have an audience. We'd love to have you stay.
Sure, want me to go over there?
No, stay
no,
here.
stay right
with
there.
us. We want to see what you think of this new tax rate, to get a first opinion.
we could have a pool, see what the lottery.
Yeah.
I'll bet it went down.
It did. So we had an estimated tax rate, and we had the tax rate hearing, and you folks voted. Purpose of that meeting was a classification hearing, which means that you vote whether we have a single or split tax rate, and we did that. We did that successfully. We had an estimated tax rate of 1787. The bad news is when we did a review of, we go through our final reviews, we found something. So we found on our schedule, the DE1, the debt exemptions that goes on our tax rate recap. We had left off a reimbursement. We have one more reimbursement from the state of $325,000 for the H. Olive Day School. So the good news is that is a positive impact to the tax rate, positive being that it brings it down. And there's no impact in the budget or the local receipts that we have to collect, et cetera. So it brings the rate down from 1787 to 1766. So much more palatable, even though we'd love to see it go down farther, but we've got the benefit of that credit one more year.
Last year's number, Jack, I forget what it was.
1743, right?
Yes.
So we're still up 23 cents. So we will have to remember that, and I will remember, but we will have to, when we get to next year's tax rate, we have that $325,000 credit.
Yeah, that's the bad news.
That I had sold to you that this year we were seeing the removal of that credit. So that was part of the reason why the rate went up this year so much. So the good news is the rate didn't go up as much this year, but we will see the rate artificially go up by about 21 cents next year because of no longer getting that $325,000
Which
credit.
means we need appreciation in the range of about 6%.
We need some really
To
solid
offset that and the 2.5,
appreciation.
Which we'll hopefully get. Be an optimist.
a little over 6%.
Kind of a side note, John, Nisa and I met with a group of realtors. It was one of the larger firms in town. They asked us to come and talk about the tax rate and, economic development, et cetera. We had a great time. It was a very good exchange. Probably had somewhere in the ballpark of 20 realtors in the room over at the library, asking us questions, talking about the rate. And I talked to them about all the debt exclusions that we've added on. over the years, and, you know, the impact of the $1.60 or so cents on the rate that are added because of that, those debt exclusions, you know, which I look at as a very positive, even though we're paying that price, they all add value to the town, and you know, we should, hopefully residents and potential residents see that. Talked about the CPA. Maybe that's a discussion for another night, but, you know, I really did a little bit of analytics about the CPA and looked at, you know, a $500,000 house that has $8,000 tax bill, and the cost of the CPA is about $70. But when
At the
we-
current rate of 1.5, you mean, as opposed
at the
to
current rate of 1%, which we
1%,
have now.
yeah, as opposed to 2.
So it would be, it'd be $210 on that same $500,000 house. Compared to an $8,200 tax bill, to me, it's a bargain. When you think of what we've been able to do with those funds.
And the state matching.
Preserve the Grange, yeah, and add in the state matching funds. Preserve the Grange, you know, the Boardman Street, Gumps Farm, Boardman Street property. That playground is the most, other than maybe the library, is the most used
It's
piece of
used all the
property in
time.
town.
It's great, yeah.
And I'm sure that is a, you know, so we talked about that.
And the 20 acres of conservation land around it.
Yeah, so that's a draw to the, you know, that's a increase on property values, because people would, young kids see that as a great thing. So I just, you know, again, that's kind of a side note. I'm kind of now regretting the fact, you know, not that I voted for the decrease anyway, but I would like, you know, I'd love to see us rethink that CPA, and because we can do a lot of great things, especially now that they've loosened up the recreation rules. You know, we need to add more recreation fields in town. So anyway, that's a
Okay, Mr. Turf.
that's a
There we go,
discussion.
There we go. There.
Ah, I love, yeah. Well, that's.
All right. Can't use it for turf. Okay.
But anyway, so we talked about that with them, and I also encouraged the realtors to, you know, we need to have the business community get organized and have a, you know, a business association. And it's something that Ray and I talked about too. He's going to try and organize that. But we need that for good economic development, and so we can understand, the planning board can understand the needs of the business community a little bit better. It's been a long time since we, you know, I think right as I started, there was the kind of the remnants of a old business group. And we
Didn't
haven't-
last long.
We haven't heard anything from them in 10 years, so that would be great. I think if we had that organization back. So Ray, you know, again, just a one side note, Ray is working on that. He's also working, looking at some vendors to try and put together kind of a marketing strategy for the town. And he's going to come together with some proposals for both the planning board and the board of selectmen to work on that. A strategy as in, you know, where do we want to be? How do we market that at the end of the day? Also look at some of our zoning, and our development processes to see if, you know, although we've been tinkering with that stuff all for, well, longer than I've been here, you know, Ray talks about, you know, there are processes that developers have to go through, even though they want to do it, they want to do a standard subdivision. They still have to go through, they may still have to, because of our processes, go through a special permit, which requires a public hearing, which, you know, just the layers and layers and layers of processes that these guys have to go, these folks have to go through. He wants to try and simplify that, not take away any of the controls, but simplify the process. All things we've talked about a million times, but I think we're getting to the point of really being able to attack it professionally and do that. So you'll hear more from Ray about that in the coming weeks and months.
And did we, I'll ask you, because you're the procurement officer, did the bids come in for engineering?
They did, 5 or 6 of them.
I have one here.
One set.
What's that?
Yeah, we did, for the planning board.
When are you guys going to make that decision?
We have a meeting on the 9th next week. I don't know to what extent this is going to be on the agenda. I don't know. I just am seeing this tonight.
There's a process that, you know, Ray Betsy, myself, and a couple of members of the planning board will go through an evaluation process, kind of tee that up for the planning board, for them to make a
So you will
selection.
make a recommendation to the board?
Yeah.
That body will make a recommendation?
Well, we'll put together an evaluation, a rating criteria
Right.
that will be rather self-evident.
Good.
So curious, Jack, with that many realtors there in the room, would you do this over the library?
Library,
Did
yeah.
you say?
Yeah, it was one, but it was one firm, just so you,
Oh, it's just one firm.
yeah.
Any feedback from them about the town or anything that would be worth, sharing?
Get the tax rate down. Heard several times. There was a lot of discussion about the schools, and they feel that again, stuff you've probably heard before, the elementary school has and their test results are very positive marketing tools for them. They'd like to see some improvements at the high school level. And there's a lot of history there with the people that said that too. Believe that.
Can I just ask you a question? I mean, was that expressed from history, or was that expressed from current data?
Schools, I mean, right? and the
Because the
testing.
current data
Yeah,
tells a different
yeah.
story.
Sometimes.
I don't know. I don't know where they made those comments.
Because a lot of what I mean, I think we all hear that same kind of stuff, but it's out-of-date data. I mean, it's an old, Indians story that just
Yeah.
continues to live on and on and on and has a life of its own. You look at the data here in the surrounding towns, with the exception of one town, it's
We're
right
doing-
up
I
there
know.
with the best of them.
So I don't know. I didn't try to refute it. I just kind of listened to
Yeah,
that.
right, yeah,
that-
figured it
that,
out.
you
Yeah,
know.
no, I understand, but how do we get that data? I mean, well, it's the
Put it as
school.
part of the
We got to get the
market.
school to get that data into their hands because they need to tell the story that's today's story, not yesterday's story. And I think too many of them are telling yesterday's story.
I agree with you. I think, to the credit of a lot of people, I mean, our schools, I think, have continued to get better. And I think there are some towns close by that have struggled to try to maintain,
Right.
what they have. And so I think if people take a fresh look at it, I think I agree
Well,
with Jim.
all of us have had our kids go there. We've got personal legacy with that school system, and
And we send kids to
And I remember
Harvard, kids
what
go to
I remember what
Harvard,
I was
you know,
told 30 years ago
obviously.
when I moved here, and it was out of date then.
It was also, that was all residential realtors, Jack, right? I mean, obviously, any commercial, because I mean, they could,
No,
may
I
have
think it was
mixed-
all residential.
So,
yeah.
I mean, not that don't want our residential population to boom. I think it's going pretty good.
Yeah.
They talk about the tax rate. I mean, they all know, a lot of them are local, that we're still, 95% taxed on our, so
94% real
bring me
estate.
some commercial development. I know it's
We
a chicken
did,
and egg.
and we
So bring me
well,
some
and we
commercial
did.
development, and my tax rate won't be so bad.
Yeah.
And our house rate's not the same as like other, same, tax rate is one thing, but if your valuations aren't as high as Medfield, for instance, even if they're at 14, the average house is, say, 800, they're still paying more tax
Well,
than it is to live here.
They say get the tax rate down. There's only, I mean, if we did nothing, which we basically, I mean, the only increase outside of the school that we have is just the 2.5 levy,
Yeah.
which every town uses. I mean, we've never asked for a dime more. So the only impact that's going to bring that tax rate down is the evaluation of the property.
Right. No, and we talked. And I mean,
only variable.
we did talk about that. So I talked about.
I mean, again, I hear
One
the concern.
gentleman brought the tax rate up, and I said, we are not, we are a residential community. And
People
we
love
are what
us.
we are. We're not gonna get, we're gonna get limited commercial because we don't have highway access, and, we're not gonna get big commercial development. Doesn't mean we can't get a lot of little commercial
Right, yeah, might
development.
add up, yeah.
One of the brokers responded with, why don't we have zoning for commercial development in the center of town with mixed use and have residential up on top and commercial down below?
That's
And
a great idea. Did you say that was a great
I
idea?
did say it was a great idea, and that's why we did it.
And nothing's come yet anyways,
Yeah,
but by
so-
the way, because we don't have gas. There's a lot of other buts, but yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
So they, see, they don't.
And-
But
the-
to your point, what they, I mean, really, it's what the prospective buyers think, but to some extent, what they think is important. So the
Yeah.
marketing program that you said, Ray, is try to put some proposals together. I
you
mean, maybe
know,
that'll help
fact-
educate.
Exactly, I mean,
and-
which is, I think, what Ray's trying to do, I hope,
You
but
could do a one-page
talk about
fact
the
sheet of the benefits of
6%
living in Norfolk,
appreciation,
right?
we ought to
Slick
have
sheet we call
marketing
market.
meetings with these real estate
Well, and
agents.
that's exactly what the conclusion I came to is,
Marketing
I was
stuff,
I was kind of
one-page
surprised
PDF.
how little these people,
Why come to
these
Norfolk?
people
And
who
me,
are
me.
the number one real estate agent in town for the past 10 years
Should
as
know everything about this
they
town.
sell, they didn't, they
They don't have all
know,
the facts.
our tax rate is up because values are down. I said the exact same thing. We haven't had a general fund override since 2005, and the debt exclusions are only adding $1.60, so our tax rate is above $16 just because values are down. And I guess the history of our tax rate at $12.50 in '05, it's not up because of override after override after
Right,
override,
it's all
because those
because
have,
of-
those
Nothing to do with that.
those don't
It's all
exist.
about evaluations.
And then when they talk about the center of town, I was a little more, disappointed. So we absolutely have to,
I hate to say this, but this is somewhat perpetuating because realtors may not live in this town, and so they have their own
Biases.
bias
Well-
potentially, so we have to change that. But
Yeah, but
not
I
easy
kind
to
of look
do,
at it the
but-
other way. In theory, they're professionals, and well, that's a bad way to say it, but I mean, they're professionals. They're marketing people that you would think
They put
that
their best
that
spin on
they
every time
would
they try to
want to
sell.
paint the right picture.
In the best picture.
Well,
Truthful
but
best
the truthful
picture.
best
Truthful
picture.
best picture.
You know,
not the-
about,
yeah.
I
and
give them credit for reaching out to us
Yeah.
and
So
inviting us
we owe
over,
them
so
a
we need to
marketing
do that
stuff. We owe
more.
them a one-page
we need to
PDF
do it a lot
with all
more.
the
It's
nice
a great
facts.
idea.
Weekly breakfast with Jack on why you should come to Norfolk. Businesses, residential, everything. And people with
I mean,
well
we
sites.
can advocate for KP just as easily as they can advocate for KP. We've got the data, we can get the information, we can tell the story.
They are hockey mark champs, by the way, football.
Undefeated.
In football, yeah.
Undefeated, baby.
First time beating Mansfield? Is that what the?
Came close to playing in Gillette this weekend.
Undefeated.
Had a great football season. Yeah.
Undefeated.
Great story, yeah.
Well, they lost one game.
Well, yeah, but that was a playoff. Undefeated regular season. Playoff game. So what else? Anything else, Jack?
You in a hurry?
Just trying to move it along. I know Bob's tired. He's been up all day.
The Bob can leave anytime he
I know.
wants.
He's just being patient. We have Jeff. Did you want to move to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I have reviewed the minutes. I make the motion to approve the minutes. I can, let me do that referencing the dates. Hold on one second. Oh, look at
there,
that.
Mike.
She's got them here for me.
Yeah.
Night, Bob.
And yours too.
Good night, Bob.
Don't forget your coat.
After the meeting's over, maybe Jack, I wanted to show you this, but nothing to do with,
Motion to approve the minutes for regular and executive session on October 7th, 2014, and the minutes for meetings on October 21st, 2014, November 4th, November 18th, and November 25th of 2014.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes have passed. All right. Anything else, gentlemen? Mr.
No,
Leahy?
just one more reinforcement, Jack. Statement of the obvious. Let's reach out to every realtor. Every
Like I said, a little. Yeah, I know they get spammed with a
I
lot
mean,
of
let's
stuff. Maybe just a
have,
profile.
help,
like a
get
business
Ray to
card.
sit down with us, and whoever can help, and let's put a fact sheet together. About our community. I mean, tell the story. It's a great place. I mean, it's a great place to live. It's a great place
Just
to raise a
imagine all the
family.
calendars
It's a wonderful
from,
town.
and little tips from all the realtors too, from certain realtor firms. They send me little tips, recipe, whatever. We should have a little,
I mean, if you-
rate sheet, a rate card, whatever you want to call it, right?
And some people want to live in Boston. Some people want to live in a nice little quiet little town. I mean, it's individual choice. But if this is the kind of community you're looking for, it's a great place to raise a family. I'm keeping this. I'm out.
Yeah, never married.
Just this thing, I'll just say on the way out, Bob, this, and I haven't looked at it yet, but this is a infrastructure report that he wants to do. And it ties into, wells and planning and due diligence. But it's an infrastructure report on all that, this is North Attleboro's, but it's something that we want to do, and he's gonna try and put together a plan for getting this done. But it has everything from, street, it's a lot of things that we do in bits and pieces.
No comprehensive. It's like a master plan for
Computer
infrastructure.
repairs, fleet, these are things that we do, the roadway inventory we
Which
do.
reminds me.
But then it starts talking about bridges and roadways and culverts and, everything else that,
So a lot of it is an inventory.
it's an inventory. And we're at the, we're at the size town now where we should be doing more of this real
Stormwater.
stormwater is something that, that's the next thing that'll keep us awake at night.
It's because of the new regulations for.
Yeah, the new regulations that have been pending for 1.5 million years.
Phosphorus.
It's gonna require us to do, to inventory all of the outfalls of, where water is coming off of roadways or.
It's going to be very
wherever,
expensive.
Where we have to
Unfunded mandate,
test
right?
that on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
It's
where,
going to be
you know,
very expensive.
And they want us to do it, they have to do it all. Not gonna pay for it.
Well, you can do it in phases, and I hope, but I mean,
It's an
that's.
important unfunded mandate.
Right.
Typically.
Another one of our unfunded mandates.
Yeah, and it's not,
Any news on prison mitigation money?
it's not in yet. Not, and I
You
have
haven't
not
heard it's out,
I have not gotten any nasty letters that it's out.
but it's not in yet.
Not in yet.
So that's not good.
And it's due any day, right?
Yeah, it's September,
It is
December.
due any day, late November, early December.
Okay.
Anything else?
News is we haven't spent it yet.
No, I'll stop.
No, you don't have to.
No,
If you have Jeffrey, you have anything else?
No, I guess for those folks who are watching, we have the parade coming up here.
On the 7th?
Sunday,
On the 7th.
yeah, at 3:30.
With some elves here, some nice selectmen elves, yeah, come out and see
We're gonna
them.
miss you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're gonna miss you?
Yeah.
You just don't want to get hit by the candy.
No, I don't mind. I love that part. The Girl Scouts whip the candy at you. That's the funnest part.
It is fun, actually.
So the parade sponsored by Norfolk.
Norfolk Lions and Norfolk Recreation.
Yep.
And I think the band plays. KP Marching Band will be there. I
So
think.
who's Santa?
Don't answer.
Can't say. You don't want to root for the kids. Santa's Santa. There's only one Santa.
Santa's
We got
coming?
young viewers.
Santa's coming?
Santa comes to
We got
Norfolk
the Santa.
because
We
he likes the
got lucky
town.
this year.
No,
Put that in the brochure too,
I just-
Jack. Santa comes to town every year in Norfolk, guaranteed. That's a selling point, right? You have
Guaranteed.
kids and you have a great
Put
school
put
system.
that on
right?
the PR?
Yeah, great school system with Santa coming to town every year. I'll check on it. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's non-debatable.
See you on December 16th, everyone. Thank you for watching.